Hello and welcome. There will be no banners today because it is NLC Div 2, not NLC Div 1. And of course, not here just yet. But I am joined by Carvis. Carvis, welcome in. How are you feeling? I feel like it's been a little bit of a time since we've been on broadcast together.
It is. Sometimes we are on the same broadcast, but we haven't been casting together for a damn long time, and it's finally come. We have two games to give to you today, and we'll be kicking things off with Garden Gaming versus Rosa Esports.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm just interested, right? That's the word of the day for me for Rusa Esports, because this team, I feel like I don't know a lot about. They're a little bit of a dark horse because they've been picking up wins where I don't think they should be picking up wins, right? 42 Gaming, they got the dub. They beat Unique, which admittedly, depending on when you played them, is a very different look, right? Right now, they seem to be getting their stuff together. But then they also lost to Blues Whites. They also lost to Rich Gang. So I feel like Rusa is really hard for me to place as to where I feel like they're going to end up in the playoffs or in general on the table, because I feel like they can kind of just beat anyone, but they could also lose to anyone.
Yeah, they have been knitting themselves a bit of a dark horse status where they can cause those upset wins, and we don't know their general strength. Starting off slow, now a ton of the teams have started to find their stride. Fourth Wall, Rosé, we have Unique also showing up, beating both 42 and Rich Gang in a row. While teams like Garden are on a 2 to 3 game loss streak, and they need to start finding these wins again to keep their round robin top of the table hopes going.
Yeah, no, I will say I feel like Garden Gaming, they've lost to some pretty good teams, right? Like if you look at who they've actually lost to, it's 42 Gaming, Blue Whites, and Fourth Wall, who are all at the top of the table at the moment. So in terms of like relative how they've been performing, I feel like they've not been losing to teams that we would expect them to beat. They have taken wins off of G2 Hell, Chaos, and K5. So again, it does feel like they're quite a middle of the pack team. But when we talk to them, they were giving it a lot of chat. They were kind of saying, we're ready to go. So I am interested to see if they can kind of bounce back and take on a challenge that I think is going to really show how good they are today.
Yeah, they definitely have the roster to be more than a middle of the pack team, in my opinion, especially Fat Shield in the top lane, who has been looking great in almost every single one of their games. Sure, he's been kind of stuck on Cassante duty, but that's still a champion. If you put out performances, eventually it will start to work out.
I feel like Cassandra duty isn't like Ornn duty, Or, well, maybe it is when Ornn was first released, because Cassandra is just that tank that just be doing way too much. He's just doing too much, Carlos, okay? And that is the best way to describe that champion. But I'm excited to kind of see a little bit more of Garden Gaming, right? We've seen a few different picks from them. I feel like they've got a lot of versatility to offer. I do wonder if they're going to bounce back from these couple losses last week, because obviously, as we said, up against very tough teams, this is one where you got to pick up the win, right? This is an important game for both teams because this is the middle of the pack. This is the fight for playoffs. This is the fight for placings that I really want to see. But what I want to see, Carvis, the most is some interesting picks, right? We've seen some brands. We've seen some Briar coming out from Garden Gaming. They're like that Jax. I feel like they like a little bit of a different flavor when it comes to their pick and ban phase.
Yeah, and we've seen Nafiri, who has kind of turned into this NLC Division 2 special with like 3 or 4 teams picking it as a counter pick every now and then. Ruza's mid laner, one of the Nafiri players, what netted them a win. For Garden, though, there's the jungler Bosch, who he has an extremely spicy pool that he can play with.
No, indeed. And the one I want to bring up, actually, because I was watching some VODs from Div 2 recently, and I want to pick your brain on this one, right? I've been seeing a lot of Sennas in this league, and they've been doing a lot of, is Senna just kind of broken at the moment? Is Div 2 just a little bit weak to that one? Like what's going on with that?
So Senna has this weird duality thing where she can work as an incredible lane bully when paired up with something like a secondary ranged character, say an Ashe or a Ezreal or something that can poke well, but she also scales extremely well to the late game with her range, with her fairly cheap build. And Senna just seems to fit the bill for how these Div 2 teams want to play. Early game slow and steady, try to get a priority advantage, secure yourself some objectives, and scale into the mid to late game. But I think I hear draft. We might be ready for game.
That's what I was like. I was like, damn, okay, a lot of sound is going through my headset. What's going on? It is draft. We're into the game. Ruza Esports is going to be picking first there. Gone for the Ash ban, which, to be fair, we talked about that center. We talked about those range kind of pairings. It does fit pretty well.
Yeah, and double range bot lane has been showing up a ton recently. Ash being the one to enable those Hail of Blades trades where you can kind of just zone people out at level 1 if you don't have an aggressive enough lane. And there goes the LeBlanc. Ericsson, pretty much probably one of the better LeBlanc players in the entire league.
And there we go. We're not going to get to test the theory. Senna is gone. Lilia also removed. I feel like Lilia, someone I expected to maybe see more of. Maybe I've just been seeing it banned a lot more, and that's why we're not getting so much play, because very, very, very strong in the jungle right now. And Kasante, we talked about Fat Shield having that pick often. Not today, says the side of Ruza.
Yeah, Garden has to figure out a new game plan for themselves this time around, where it has been Fat Shield on the weak side Kasante fairly often. And I think he's played Kasante every single game except for one where he played Ornn.
2. He played Karma as well. 1 game.
Oh, right, true. Fat Shield, the OG Karma player, of course. Speaking of characters that are left open, Karma's open and Varus is open.
And I feel like, personally, I feel like I'd rather pick up Karma just because of the flexibility the champion gives you. But Varus, still a very, very strong pick, right? It's one that we have seen Ruza... Well, actually, have we seen Ruza play it before? They played it once before. So it is something they've been kind of working on. But they've also played some aggressive bot lanes too, right? They picked up the Lucian a couple of times, right? So I am interested to see how they play this one around. Obviously, there is that thought process of Varus could be flexed into the top, right? There was that happening at the start of this season, but we'll see if that one stays in, as right now we are going to get that Karma. Where does it go? That's the big question.
Surprising absolutely no one. This is one of the champions on 14.2 that you have to be afraid of. Having the Q base damage buff makes her an absolute monster no matter where she is. Even in the support role, you can go Malignus and dominate the mid game. And this is usually what it's paired up with. Ezreal has been showing up a ton lately here in Div 2.
I'll be honest, I'm an Ezreal hater. I'll be honest. I just don't like the champion. Like, I don't know why. It just always feels like it never closes out the game. You know, it's always good, but it does, for me, there's just something. It just, maybe I'm watching the wrong Ezreals, but it just doesn't feel like it is doing the most. But talking about doing the most, Twisted Fate has been someone that people have been talking about.
This has been showing up in a weird lane as well. Top lane is where TF has found a new home with the AD build. And this, I believe, is one of the first games in Div 2 that it has been locked in. So a new meta development live here on the mainstream. But back to the Ezreal. I think he has a pretty good win rate this time around in Div 2. He used to be that champion that doesn't really feel like he does anything. You just blind it and see if you can play and kind of help your team carry. But this time around, he is a powerhouse. When he gets the third item power spike, has the Muramana, has a ton of force. You can siege objectives and never let go. Nautilus being locked in for Rizza though. They may be able to catch the Ezreal with this.
Yeah, I like the Nautilus a lot. I think it also gives you not only the ability to catch Ezreal, but also forces kind of the support to stay in lane. Although Braum is a really good support to pick into Nautilus. They are obviously kind of showing a little bit of where Karma could go. Now it's just the solo lanes that you've got to debate between. But Braum into Nautilus, I really, really like this matchup, especially with the Ezreal.
Not only is it good against Nautilus, it's extremely good against Varus and TF both. You can start blocking gold cards, you can start blocking the Varus ultimate and arrows that would otherwise delete your teammates, and you kind of force the Varus to go into an on-hit build if he wants to have a proper impact on the game if Shiro's on point with Unbreakables.
Yeah, no, I'm very much big fan of Braum. Back in my support days ages ago, that was my favorite pick. But talking about other favorite picks, Brand, Zac taking away two of the more, I guess, played champions in different roles. So we had Brand jungle going in, Zac top as well as being quite popular. And we are going to see who is the final ban for Ruza, right? Taking away the Azir, so trying to take away a lot of AP, some mid laners. Also going to take away Jhin, so a little bit targeting the early game. And that's quite a few picks that we often see gone.
If I was Garden, I'd be heavily looking at a Jax here for Bash in the jungle. considering what the enemy team has, the impact could be pretty good. And things like Azir banned away, the self-peeling characters are starting to be few. Nocturne also still available if anyone wants to pick it up. Well, there it is.
As you say, it shall appear, leaving that last pick to the top side as well. So we are going to know if it is Twisted Fate top, and then maybe they've got a little bit of things lined up to kind of play around that one. But last couple picks coming out from Ruza, right? Obviously, a lot is going to be exposed here. Is it TF top? Is it TF mid? They need probably a little bit of engage as well. It does look like it's going to be TF on the top side here because Talia locked in, but it could still be jungle. Actually, yeah, they might be playing me here.
Not going to know until the last pick is locked in. And this composition is starting to look really squishy. They need some front line somewhere in here, or this Nocturne might be able to run through the back line.
I'm just saying, when are we seeing Alawi getting played?
She is extremely strong, but we haven't seen her in a while. Sion, well, that's some front line, all right. And most likely will be the TF heading into the mid lane, and Ericsson will have a free off-choice counter pick.
Unless we're getting some really crazy stuff. We're getting Sion in the mid lane, and then maybe seeing TF in the top side. But I do agree, I think that would be the more unusual side of it. I'm interested to see how Ghana Gaming decides to play this, right? Because they could also flex that Karma. They don't have to go for this, but Olaf is going to be the pick, a very dangerous top laner that could just snowball out on Sion.
Yeah, I think Garden's starting to smell blood looking at the Reza composition. As I said, very squishy. Everyone else but the Sion can easily be run through by a Karma shielded up Olaf and Nocturne. If they fall apart in the early or mid game, this top side of Garden can run over.
But there is also the kind of counterpoint, right? Yes, Olaf with Ragnarok is going to be very dangerous to Ruza Gaming, but there is also that level of like, there's a lot of poke coming out from the side of Ruza, right? They got the Talia, the Twisted Fate, and the Varus that can all deal out quite a bit of damage from range. And yes, Ezreal can also kind of match that with Karma, especially with Malignance. But there is that kind of world for me where actually I don't know if they're going to have the easiest time getting into those objectives. So if Ruza do play around them early on those timers, they could make life very difficult for Garden Gaming.
It is, of course, when you're playing a poke comp, you're automatically going to have an advantage when it comes to objectives. The real question is, does Ruza have a chance to position themselves in a proper defensive position where they don't get Olaf flanked or Nocturne ulted upon by an approaching Mantra shielded up Garden Gaming, because that's when they will be in trouble. And one of the strengths that we usually talk about when dealing with TF is the side lane pressure that you have. When the enemy team has a Nocturne, it is heavily negated due to the semi-global 1 versus 2 that can appear out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, well, if you want to maybe go into a 1-3-1, like, you got Olaf as well that's going to be doing a lot of bits. And I think that if Sion isn't able to kind of weather out this storm early game, if Olaf starts to snowball at all, well, then the game is going to be very tough, especially if the Grubs can be secured early as well. It's one that I really want to look at today, because Grubs versus Dragons, right? I kind of got my opinion changed quite a lot yesterday when I was casting to UKEL, because Dragon Soul really played some major factors in some of the games that I watched, right? A lot more than I've kind of seen in other games this season, as we are going to be going on to the Rift. Let's bring us into game shortly. But I want to know, Carvis, Grubs, Dragon, where's your priority lying in this game? And is it different for both teams?
It depends how lucky you're feeling. Because, as I said, Dragon Soul can be a win condition. But if you get unlucky and you roll, let's say, Chemtech Soul, Cloud Soul, suddenly the win condition just isn't there. You wasted all those resources onto some stats that you will, of course, have, but you don't get the win condition. While Grubs can snowball an advantage, especially on a comp like Rosette, who have a ton of split pushes, have a ton of siege potential. They can melt down the towers with the added true damage. And that's why I'm expecting Flamey to head up to those topside camps a bit more often and let Garden Gaming deal with the dragons. The dragon area is where there will be 4 members, and in a level 6 fight early on, they may not have the power to deal with Nocturne and Karma.
Big questions, big answers needed. Where the jungle is going to start is one on my mind early on, and definitely interested to see this one. Also, I will say shout out to Cloud Soul on Olaf, because that is
that is disgusting.
Normally not a problem, but on that champion A, you know what? Maybe that is a win condition. So we'll have to see how lucky they do feel, but also where the junglers will play, right? Both are starting on the top side, so expecting them both to be pathing down bot side, which means that Grubs could be on the table pretty early as a... Okay, setting up the worked ground there. I was like, hello, are you okay? What's going on, Flammy? But yeah, no, all makes sense. As right now, no leash coming out, but Olaf trying to cause a little bit of a disturbance. He's going to find out Turtle. We'll put a little bit of pressure onto the jungle.
This is actually really wise from Flemmy, because if he had started the blue buff, they would have had 1 versus 2 Fat Shield, who is a powerhouse in the early game. Starting from the Wolves, sure, they have the information where the Talia starts from, but the jungle player isn't really hindered this way, and they take no risk.
Yeah, we'll see if there is going to be any sort of crazy antics, because last time we saw GG, there was actually a sentiment of a lot of early plays going into their jungle, right? And they really tried to put Bash behind, but they managed to weather that storm. So I wonder if they maybe flip the script and go for that themselves onto Russo, with the fact that the Nocturne can be so powerful in the early stages. We're talking about early stages power. Ericsson already starting to put on that pressure.
The pressure would have been there if the Metro Q had hit. A huge chunk would have been gone from Ivex's health pool, but sometimes calm, cool, and collected wins you lanes. Just stand still and auto-text the enemy karma. And Doran's Blade, Fleet Footwork, this will be the ADTF, even though it is played from the mid lane, so magic damage is only will only be coming from Flemmy.
Let's see. Talia obviously notorious for being able to do quite a lot of damage if you hit those spells. Sometimes can be a little bit more difficult, as we do see the Nocturne going for that invade. We talked about it potentially occurring, right? Nocturne is very strong, and well, we're going to see it here, but do they know the flip back already happened? And now Bash going to reveal themselves, going to try and take this one. Does have Smite and will pick that one up. Flammy losing their buff, losing a bit of pressure, and now kind of relying on the laners to give them a bit of a helping hand, but both mid and bot are pushed in.
Exactly, they're playing with the lane priority. Ezreal and Braum shoving in the wave. Of course, you're going to have the Karma in the mid lane, forcing TF back, who's not AP, so wildcards aren't going to be able to clear the wave too quickly. And if you can abuse this to its full potential, Bash may be able to get a level advantage, and if Nocturne hits 6 before Talia, chaos is going to be happening on this bot side of the map.
Indeed it will, as right now Default just having to stay very far away from Ericsson. Just the damage that Karma can do. And they haven't even got Malignance yet, right? I played against Karma recently, and I didn't realize how oppressive this champion can be. The amount of spells that they can throw is unreal. But we'll see if it is going to come into true effect. As right now on the top side, I'm interested to see if Fatchel gets a visit from Flammy, because Turtle whittling them down. They are about half HP, so maybe there is a potential for a turn. But all in all, I think Flammy just quite happy to pick up a little bit of extra gold and go back to farming their jungle. Now, Grubs will be spawning shortly. Are we expecting anyone moving from the bottom side up?
Most likely not, considering that Flammy hasn't been able to reset to a very high power back. Doesn't have boots either, so the mobility will be really low. Bot lane, small skirmish. And you see Nocturne already heading there. Fat Shield's gonna have priority. Ericsson has teleport. No, Fat Shield.
I'm gonna go aggressive here. Undertow will connect. Turtle trying to run away, but the slow is too much. And first blood to the Olaf. We talk about this champion being so oppressive in the early game. Turtle is gonna start to feel that pain.
Yeah, I guess that's a way to flex priority. I'd say killing the opponent is sort of priority. Bash still not heading to the Grubs though, even with his top laner feeling quite strong. Wants to keep clearing and getting that level 6 as soon as possible to influence the map more. As the game gets more and more towards the first items, the GG roster needs to make sure they are ahead in as many lanes as possible. Oh, well, that's another way to do it.
Oh my days! Oh man, if I'm Evoc, I'm just like, yo, why are we not banning this champion? This is so unreal. But right now, Rizzo, they are going to make some plays on the map. They're going to go for that first Drake there. So going to get the Infernal, which is going to take a little bit of pressure off of them in terms of worrying about will the soul be stacked against them. And I do wonder if in this time Bash will finally go for those grubs. Looks like they are going to head up there. As this one should be secured slowly but surely. I believe GG will find out the dragon is there. But taken away.
So interestingly, opposite of what I initially thought the junglers would be focusing on.
Okay.
With Garden going for the grubs, I think this is more of a denial from Ruze than what they actually wanted. Because now the pushing potential from Ruze is diminished quite a bit. They cannot get the mites anymore, but they can get the flash from Shiro and zone the bot lane away from this wave.
Yeah, it's pushing them back, and it did feel like GG were kind of trying to overplay this one. They did lose a little bit of help, but actually have managed to get themselves safely back to their tower. Will claim up this huge wave that was pushed in, and all in all, just have a pretty nice time. It does feel like at the moment, though, GG, they have the power, right? They're the ones that are scaling early, but if we go to the late game, Carvis, where are we kind of looking? Because obviously, like, Olaf, very strong if he can get onto targets, we're seeing right now. But late game Sion is a bit of a monster, and the damage that Varus can do with Talia could kind of just stop him before he can even get close.
Indeed, and that is where the coin flip lies. Can they kill Bash and Fat Shield before the entire backline of Rosette is in shambles? The Sion will be pretty much a wall of meat in front of skill shots flying from Ericsson and MKL. They cannot be allowed to reach the backline along with their front line. If that ever happens, the teamfight will almost surely go in the favor of Garden. So kite back against full-on dive will be what we're seeing on probably the next dragon that spawns in 3 minutes.
So what's the stats on this TF, right? When are we expecting the power? When are we expecting it to kind of really pop off? Does it scale exactly how we'd expect maybe like a Tristana to scale? Or is there a little bit more of an item breakpoint that we're expecting to really show off how strong this champion is?
It kind of depends on what the exact build Ivok is going for. We've seen some people in pro games go for 3 points in the wild cards in the static shiv to go for a sort of a ED LeBlanc style. You clear the wave instantly and start roaming, have a ton of attack speed that way. Or you can go for the regular on-hit style, where you have your Kraken Slayer, you have your Ginsus, and the first item power spikes are where this TF will start to shine. You toss a gold card, and with the on-hit damage, to melt the health bar of whoever you caught.
A little bit of a quiet one. I feel like I expect a little bit more fireworks, but both teams quite happy to kind of play it until the mid game. That's obviously when a lot of power spikes are reached. So far, Fat Shield being the main contributor to any sort of kill threat. And we'll see if that does continue, as we are seeing Flammy on this bot side, but so is Bash. So a 3v3 might be going down real soon, as Greason looking to try and get the hook. Will grab onto Sharos. Here comes the Weavers. Will going to jump in, but the Nocturne to match as well. Sends it forwards, and they are going to go aggressive, but so far it's a 1-0 for Ruza. It will be evened out, but Bash stepping a little bit far forward. They will get Namex, but goes down is Bash. MKL, the last one alive, as Flammy also able to walk out a 2v2, but 2 kills going over to Namex is pretty massive if you're Ruza.
All the carries got the kills. 2 kills going over the barriers, of course, very good, going to accelerate his first item power spike a ton. But Bash and MKL both getting a kill for themselves is also very nice. Nocturne can transfer that power to the rest of the map and to these objectives, where he will be the one diving onto the barriers and trying to get that gold off the rift as soon as possible.
And we talked about it a little bit in the green room, right? Ruza obviously like to play to this bot side, so obviously them getting that Varus ahead, quite integral in their game plan in general. We'll see if that still can keep occurring. As right now, I feel like the solo lanes are having a bit of a tough time, but Greason going to try and ease a little bit of pressure. But the grub's up. Here we go. It's round 2. It looks like it's going to be a 6-stack and no contention from the side of Ruza, which means tower pushing is going to be very strong for the side of GG.
And this may even unlock a new plan for Garden. Getting all the 6 grubs kind of allows Fat Shield to become a split-pushing threat, where you need to deal with the Olaf somehow before you go for an objective, or the towers will fall apart. And with the Ravenous Hydra already there, Turtle's going to have a nightmare of a time trying to protect his top side, even using the ultimate to clear the wave there. But bot side!
Ooh, talk about nightmares, though. It is a nightmare in the bot side for GG. They're getting pushed back. They will be forced away from their tower once again. And these platings are starting to head over to Namex, right? That's quite a bit of gold that they're getting as they're going to go for more. That's going to be another kill given to the Varus, and Bash will join the fight once again. But it's worth, right? I feel like it's worth. If you're getting this ADC ahead, yes, the Nocturne might be strong, but providing that you can still peel for this Varus, you can peel for Namex, then I don't think they're going to be too worried about Bash.
Yeah, Namex, the star player on Rizet, former Division 1 player, took a small break, now back here in Division 2. Still putting out performance after performance, and with the Dragon up, we should see a team fight coming fairly soon. Whoever gets that will have a nice little ocean to play with. Not the best Dragon to get at 12 minutes into the game. You'd rather have it to be the first one, but still absolutely fine. Experimental Hexblade, Hex, something. Nocturne will attack, it's the item. Huge power spike for the Nocturne. And Rizet will need to now show us their positioning prowess. In Division 2 lately, the meta has been very slow and quiet. We only have 7 kills going to the 13-minute mark. And this is usually where the teams start to properly fight. First item, all gloves come off, and whoever gets the kills starts to snowball ahead.
Fat Shield just trying to be as big a menace as possible, right? Going into the jungle, putting pressure onto Flammy, proxying the wave so that Turtle has a little bit of a rougher time, and just all in all being a little bit of a menace. Ericsson still poking out Evoke, but the lane is starting to look a little bit more manageable for the Twisted Fate, I will say. As that Dragon still very much on the menu, but Bash going to start counter jungling to Leah, going to start to cause some issues to Flammy in the farm department, but we'll see if that is matched, because the pressure that is being built on that top side from GG is being quite easily matched by Ruza in that bot side, right? This Varus is still pushing, they still got a lot of pressure on these Drakes, so if they do secure these neutral objectives, maybe they open up a win condition for themselves.
And with the priority, they're easily able to start this up, but there is vision in the pit, and God is rotating over. Ericsson is a little bit ahead of the others, though.
All Destiny going to be called in as a fight in the bot side. Namex are able to survive a little bit longer, but on their own with Bash. This is not a good time. This is the nightmare the Nocturne was talking about, and they're going to be able to pick up that kill so easily. And Evoke now just getting absolutely shut down. Ruza just unreally split by this team. And you talked about positioning. Well, they were definitely not in the right positions for that team fight.
This is pretty much exactly what I was afraid of when talking about Riz's composition against the Garden dive. Bash able to find Namex on him by himself behind the Dragon Pit, able to kill the main carry of the team before anyone else is even close to dying.
Oh, man,
now even Turtle's stuck.
Look at this. He's just getting slowed perma. He can't run. He doesn't have Fat Shield on the chase, but not going to keep going.
No,
I think he has the damage. No Ragnarok, as you said. Yeah, it could be a little bit risky, but really trying to flex out on this Scion. Slowly but surely, just crushing this lane. As yeah, we talked about it, right? We talked about, okay, Namex is going to be completely fine if Bash isn't able just to get onto them. Well, in that fight, Bash was just able to be 1v1 with the Varus in melee range, and it was quite painful to watch.
Indeed. And that is the way Garden wants to play every single fight. And if they can get a couple more kills...
Oh, here we go. It's all again. The fear lands. Namex in trouble. Tries to trade back a bit of damage, but it's not going to be enough. We'll do a decent chunk, but it's nothing to write home about. As another kill going to go the way of GG. And they're starting to build this pace, right? They are now 3k gold up. They're starting to flip that pressure on the bot side, so their MKL and the side of Sharo will start to be able to hold their own in that 2v2, and they already have the top lane pressure on their side, and mid lane, it's been pretty even overall, but I would say the Ericsson's slightly ahead of Evoke.
The mid lane doesn't even really matter because it's karma. Karma's gonna be doing Karma things no matter if she's 0-4 or 8-1. She might hurt a little bit more if she's 8-1, but the things that she does is still the same. What really matters is the stats on Bash and Fat Shield. If these two can reach a break point where they, instead of having to outposition the enemy and find proper targets to go in with to stat checking, it's almost impossible for Ruzza to take a 5-on-5 fight. Their backline will just die no matter what they do, and even then, Ivok has to burn the flash in the mid lane, getting caught a little bit too far up defending against 3.
Now, Nemec's bold with it, right? Just goes for the tower. We'll be able to get that one. Now looking for more, pushing again deeper and deeper, and we'll be able to build up quite a decent chunk of gold for themselves. They have to be careful because the team are starting to roam around, and obviously Bash, with that ultimate, Paranoia could spring them out of anywhere. But Fat Shield on their way. Sharo going in quite early, but here comes the Nocturne diving into the backline, but do they have enough? Destiny propped as well. Twisted Fate might be joining, but is it going to be a good time? Fat Shield running through this team. Hasn't propped the Ragnarok just yet, but a double kill over to the Olaf. That is going to secure even more in the back. Another shutdown onto Namix. But can they turn this into some objectives?
Jeriel, I'm afraid the breakpoint might already be here.
Yeah.
Two items on the Nocturne. He refused to die even when getting focused down by 3 members from Ruzza. And they don't have burst. Almost all of their damage out of Talia with just constant damage output through on-hit effects. Against Nocturne, if you cannot take him down fast... Oh! Get it?
I love it, I love it. But here comes the rebuttal, here comes the Scion. Oh, and that's going to go slightly wide, and now he might want to turn around. TP's coming in, team are collapsing, but they are going to have some support from the jungle as a couple more are joining. Turtle, a very tanky member of this team, is going to be run down though, holding the wall for a little bit longer, but into the back line goes the Olaf. Do they have the damage? The Paranoia gets progged, but it's still Namex alive. Will finally fall down, but the team is starting to turn this one around. They're getting that damage back, and they're starting to move forward. Can they take this one for themselves? Flammy not going to get the knock up onto Ericsson, but a 2v2 in what looked like a bit of a dire situation for Ruzza. They'll take that.
Yeah, punishing the fact that Garden didn't have cooldowns to spend, and the bad positioning this time around from the Garden team fighting in the choke point allowed Namix to hit for free for quite some time, able to take out the front line. But the critical thing, I think Greason got the shutdown onto the Nocturne, so all of that gold going into the support's inventory makes the gold swing a little bit worse.
Oh, that's rough. I will say this, Covers. Whenever I sit here garden gaming, I always think about Plants versus Zombies. And I'm just like, if you're Ruzza right now, you need to get one of them potato shields. You know, that just blocks off the path. That's what they need right now. That's what Turtle needs to become.
Another thing that they could use is one of those potato mines. Just blow up one of the first members approaching. I think that's the plan. Maybe both. You put the potato mine and the shield. The Scion is the shield. I'm just missing the mine.
Talia?
I guess
Talia could be the mine? Maybe.
She puts down quite a few potatoes with her E, to be fair.
But we'll see what they do decide to plan in the next team fight. We're going to get Hextech Dragons. So, a pretty good soul, if you ask me. Whoa, are you against it?
I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen a team lose with Hextech Soul, and I can't think of it.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice to have. I still don't know which would be my favorite. I think Mountain is definitely up there for me, but I would take a Hextech.
There are, I think, the top 3 are Infernal, Mountain, and Hextech, with Hextech being by far the best one. The power of that soul is just incredible. If you're kiting away, you get the slow from the chain lightning. If you're kiting towards the enemy, you still get the slow from the chain lightning. No matter what you're doing, it's good. It adds a bunch of damage, and even the passive the dragons give you isn't too bad. So an incredible win condition for both teams to fight over. We should be seeing a ton of action in the dragon area, fighting over the vision constantly. And the fact that Garden has gotten the mid outer tower and the bot lane outer tower favors them hugely when going for that vision play.
It does, as we now see them starting to get a little bit of a rotation on the map, right? Sending MKL up into the top side with Sharo just to try and secure that last objective, but also put them on the map for that Baron play, right? If they send multiple members to try and deal with Fat Shield, right, from the side of Ruza, then they're opening up for this purple buff to be secured very easily, and I feel like the damage is there, especially with the fact that you can Karma Shield to reduce how much you're going to be taking.
Indeed. Both of the teams actually have a pretty good Baron take with all the on-hits. Brom, where are you?
Not if Shiro is going to go down like this. Steps a little bit too far forward, dragged completely back, and no rebuttal available from GG.
They're still trying, though.
Oh, Destiny going to be stepping forward now. Evok able to get the stun, but it's not going to lead to much more paranoia to deny a little bit of a vision, but it is a 4 versus 3. They're going to step into this one. I don't know why they're taking it, because now it's completely untouched. 2 more kills going to be gifted over to Ruza, and do they potentially just start the Baron?
They, of course, do. They have the damage to do it. Talia and Barry's best Baron take is, if you don't have a Heimerdinger on your team, a bunch of opportunities for Ruza to just turn over the game here, with Bash not having paranoia. Fat Shield has teleported in.
Oh, it's Fat Shield though! The Olaf is trying to bring apart Ragnarok and absolutely decimates through the team. Quadra kill! Give him the Penta! Go for the 5th! He's chasing down Turtle, but does he have enough? He gets knocked up. Will they greed for the kill? It's a tanky boy under the tower. The knockup is there. He shuts down Fat Shield. But what is the cost? Turtle, the last alive with the Baron buff. A big play that almost looked so great for Ruza until Fat Shield turned up.
What looks like an initial miscoordinated blunder from God and turns into a masterful bait. They somehow turn around the entire Baron fight with the power of Fat Shield's Olaf, getting the Quadra kill and a bunch of gold. Turtle only one left alive, so while Ruza does have a buff to play with and a small gold lead, they still have to deal with the Garden side laner who is turning up the heat.
It feels like that was more of a denial Baron. You know, they got it just so that the side of Garden Gaming can't have it. But we'll see how much usage they can actually get out of it, because as we said, it's only Sion, and he's having to match up against Fat Shield, which is just not a fun time in general, especially not a 7-2 Olaf, right? Almost two and a half items completed, looking pretty stacked.
I mean, if this was a 3-2 Olaf, I'd go, yeah, sure, that's completely fine, but with a Quadra kill, it's a way bigger problem, almost reaching the 3rd item, and Fat Shield, knowing this, already heading to the side lanes. With the Baron buff though, Ruza forcing down the mid outer tower, evening out the situation around the Baron pit and around the Dragon pit area for this dragon spawning in a minute or so, setting up the vision. All the entrances should be covered, and with Destiny and Talia ult available, they are able to keep the side lanes pushed and making Garden commit to one of the lanes.
And I do like that Ruza went for that push, right? I like that they went for the mid tower. They've opened up the map for themselves, which allows for deeper vision, but also it just gives a little bit of control back. And it says, yay, we're not just going to let you run down our team every single time, but they have to be careful, because this is actually how GG want to play it. They just want to full force go in, and the engage is going to occur. A big knockback from the Talia. Maybe they've done enough damage on that front line, but Bash going aggressively onto Evok should be able to pick up this kill. And we have to remember, Fat Shield is still alive. Flammy Namex in a little bit of no man's land here, but will be now able to turn onto Bash. The knockup is there. The damage should come through, but here comes Olaf. He's charging in, looking for the kills, but not going to have enough damage to finish them off quickly. And it is actually Ruza that picks up another team fight win.
Bash went onto Evok, the TF who's building pretty much full utility after realize that he doesn't have the damage to deal with these frontliners from Garden. Gets all the resources burnt onto him. Namex goes completely unharmed until Fat Shield goes in with a Ragnarok. And now, all of a sudden, Ruza turning situation once again. What looked so bad initially. Okay, they find a miracle hook from Greason onto Mikkel. Ezreal gets popped instantly, not able to participate into the team fight at all. And from there, Garden just overcommits hard, thinking they're more powerful than they actually are.
And we talked about positioning being a massive importance for Ruza. They had pretty good positioning in that fight, but the one thing I have to talk about from GG, from Garden Gaming, is that, okay, you may not have to be in the right position to win fights, but you have to be going in at the same time, and target focus is so important because it felt like they were like, okay, initial fight didn't go our way. Then they went one by one into the squad of Ruza, and you're not strong enough to do that.
You definitely aren't, and I want to reiterate this. The key target to get down is Namex. Airlock is almost full utility, having to go rapid fire cannon in a second, doesn't even have the Guinnesses for the added on hit procs, only just now finishing it, turning into at least small damage threat due to that team fight win. Flammy has the Zanya, so he's not a dive target. You're gonna waste a ton of resources. You need to deal with the rest of the team first. God is running out of options.
Ruza now starting to throw their weight around, feeling like they're pretty strong, but they might overstep a little bit there. You've got to be careful. It's still a dangerous team, as we are going to see. Ultimates are thrown out. Not going to be enough, though. Shiro not connecting on the Glacial Fissure. And a little bit more of a cool time coming out from Ruza there, just able to walk away. Only one flash burned. But right now, it feels like a little bit of kind of, I guess, not Baron baiting because it's not up for another minute, but just holding out the area, trying to just shove away any sort of opportunity for Ruza to get wards deep into that pit. As right now, Fashiel going to have to burn Ragnarok. That is absolutely massive a minute before Baron.
As you said, this is a calm before the storm. And there's a huge dark cloud looming above Garden Gaming that is called scaling. The Ruza composition is starting to outscale the early to mid game power that Garden brought to the table. And past the 30-minute mark, I think will be where Ruza has the advantage. Past the when we start to hit the fourth item, everyone start to get level 16. That's when Ruza's composition will activate.
And that's what we talked about earlier, right? We said, okay, Garden Gaming, they're dangerous. They're definitely going to have a lot of presence, but that late game power spike with the Celia, with that Varus is going to be quite noticeable. And Evok, if they get a couple more items, also could be big problems for the side of Garden Gaming. So they do kind of need to start picking their fights a little bit better. They've had a couple throws where they've given over a lot back to Ruza, and they kind of need to compose themselves a little bit better. Maybe kind of target selection being the name of the game, as they are opening up a potential for a split push here. Now, obviously, Fatshield does have the teleport there, so could come up to this Baron. But it feels like it's actually Ruza that are in control of going for it first.
At least vision-wise, they have the deeper vision and they've denied the pit. However, Garden, with the Karma, are able to easily go and contest this pretty safely. Sion isn't there to frontline, so anyone putting themselves in harm's way from Ruza could get popped in a flash if they go into the darkness.
Right now, a little bit of vision denial coming out from Bash. They're going to clear out a couple of wards, so should make it a little bit nicer. Oh, he didn't get that ward because he went for the control first. That's tough, but either way, back onto this one. GG going to start to step forward towards this Baron. Obviously, Sion is in the bot lane, but Turtle does have TP, so could go for this, but they're actually just going to start up the buff.
And this is pretty fast, already 5k HP gone, but Ruza knows this is happening, teleport coming in.
TP coming in from the wall that wasn't cleared earlier, and now Turtle looking to just charge straight in, goes aggressive, burns the Ragnarok from the side of Fast Shield, and this could be a big turning point for the game right now. Ruza stepping forward, they get the chains onto Fast Shield, they're looking to pick up this Olaf. If he goes down, it's massive, and now GG, they lost a huge component of their team's damage, and the Baron is a big threat for Ruza.
Who knew with this composition it would be Ruza going forwards towards the enemy team? They don't even want to go for the Baron without one of the main threats to the backline. They know they can play for the Dragon. The Soul would be a huge win condition for them. They have 2 already, just 5 more minutes, and they force Garden's hand to pick a fight at this Dragon where they will be hugely favored. But Garden doesn't want to let this go for free.
they're gonna go for it, but again, they have to be careful here. Yes, it's going down, but it's not gonna be fast enough. Destiny is gonna bring Evoke a little bit closer and will force them away single-handedly. So another play the Garden Gaming go for that just nets them nothing.
DPS isn't there. Their bruises just don't deal enough damage. You don't have a hyper carry. You have an Ezreal who, sure, is very self-sufficient, can deal a ton of damage if in an extended fight if he gets to ramp up. But there's just no consistent DPS. It's the complete opposite of the blue side comp.
Especially when they don't have Fat Shield as well, right? Doing the Baron, 4 members, no Olaf, your main carry, your strongest member in the game, who wasn't even there, by the way, which is what makes it even more scary that Garden Gaming went for that. It's just a little bit of a crazy decision, but they don't lose anyone. They don't die from it, so they can just reset. They can re-look to go for this Baron, but the opportunity for them is whittling lower and lower and lower because Turtle has just farmed exceptionally in this game, right? Level 17, just an absolute beast, 3 items and a half, just a massive, massive monster of a shield, and is just able to force Fat Shield to use their ultimate, to use their Ragnarok, because if they just charge into them, the Olaf might be very scary, but if they're having to run away when Ragnarok is available, the threat just disappears for Ruza.
Hold on just a second. Is that a Serpent's Fang in Turtle's inventory?
It is, and I was a little bit like, I don't really understand that. But right now, we'll talk about that in a second because another team fight is happening. TPs are going to be coming in. A lot of knockups have occurred. Turtle holding the front line, but here comes the Ragnarok top Olaf. Can he get to the back line? The answer is no, and he's going to be going forwards. He's looking for the damage, but it is not there. The hook from Greason pulls them back. The stun card from the Twisted Fate, and Bash, the last alive, but he will not be going anywhere. The stuns, the damage, it's all too much, and Ruza win another team fight.
They could even win the game here. 40-second death time is on some of the Garden members. 20 seconds until Mikkel's up. They can go for this. They have a cannon wave.
Massive wave, massive damage. They're looking for the potential end here. A lot of AD damage, a lot of consistent coming out. They get one tower, but can they get more? 10 seconds on MKL, 10 seconds on Shiro. They're looking for the end here. They might be able to get it. The charge from the Scion to smash up the towers, and it will be Ruza that take the game against Garden Gaming.
Well, Division 2 once again provides them with a comeback victory from the team that was down considerable amounts in the mid game. Just gets outscaled and out-team fought.
If you got the early team, you can't wait until the late. That's what they need to remember. It's all strong from Ruza, right? They had a couple really good team fights. I will say it feels a little bit sad for Garden Gaming, right? They were winning, they were crushing it, it looked so good for them, and then they were just 2 players, Carvis, that they just lost it all on. They just could not handle the damage and the consistent DPS coming out from the side of Ruza. And if it was basically all on Fat Shield, if he couldn't get into the back line, he just was never going to be able to win the team fight for the rest of them. And Garden Gaming, they just didn't have that consistent DPS. They could not contend with the amount of damage that was being put out from the side of Ruza. And it just kind of makes me question, like, is late game just a way to go?
It's starting to feel like it's here in Division 2 that if you don't have late game insurance, you better be damn good at closing out the game, because if you're not, even the largest snowball will eventually stop when it hits the side of the mountain that is on the other side. This time around, the mountain was just the Varus building quite tanky, Scion being a monster in the front line. In those final couple of team fights, Olaf and Nocturne couldn't even reach the backline. They got stopped straight on in the front.
Yeah, it's just... What can we say? What can we say? All we can say is we're going to go for a short break. When we come back, I believe we might be having an interview, but we're thinking late game. Kassadin, Aurelion Sol, Senna. We're going to go discuss Scion Serpent's Fang. We'll see you soon. Hello and welcome back. And as promised, we are going to get an interview. Let's bring them in. It's time to welcome in Namex to the stream. How are you feeling? Another win for you guys. And we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier about you guys being a bit of a dark horse, a little bit unknown. Do you feel like, where do you feel like you should be in the power rankings of the league?
Oh, really? Top 2 for sure. In my mind, when I came in with this roster, of course, you guys don't have the inside info that we have. In my mind, I saw all the other rosters. I was like, nah, we're for sure top 2. And that's how I felt. We had some mishaps in the early season, like the first 3 games. We had some internal issues that we had to resolve. We had to ultimately swap a player, which led to a rough start, but it's coming together a lot better now.
Yeah, it is 100% coming together. You guys have been looking amazing. And yeah, it's fun to see you here in the NLC Division 2, considering how well you performed in the RPS. How has it been transitioning over back? You took quite a long break from competitive league, as far as I know. So being back on the playing field, how does it feel?
Yeah, I was on a 2-year break. It feels great. It feels amazing. I really missed it. That's why I'm back. But honestly, I every time we have an official match, I have a hard time sleeping because I'm so excited for the games.
That's cool. I like that. I like that. You're kind of living for the vibe. You're living for the NLC too. I respect that a lot. Now, we got a question, okay? We talked about it on broadcast. We said we are going to go talk about it offline. We didn't because I wanted to ask this live, right? Sion Serpent's Fang.
Yep.
Why?
We cooked a bit, and the reason for it is that enemy team has massive amount of shields. Sion is literally in the middle of everyone and has an easy time proccing it with Q and W. So when enemy team is building double Sterex Gauge, Olaf has his W shield, there's Karma, there's Locket, there's a bunch of things to proc it. We said we needed it on one person. We said whoever can build it, build it. Sion said, yeah, I can build it, I can proc it relatively good. So Sion took the role and did it.
Yeah,
okay,
and
400 IQ.
And it
legit.
clearly worked. You guys start turning around the team fights. Something that I'd like to ask your opinion on regarding this previous game and overall what Division 2 is starting to trend towards these late game style compositions where at the 2 and 3 item mark you start playing towards Barry, you start playing towards Soul. Do you think this is just a meta development or is this a Division 2 stylistic thing?
No, I think this is just a meta how it is. I don't think it's necessary Division 2 style, but it also like revolves around draft because most of the teams we face they ban every single early game pick we have, so we have to like pick scaling because that's what they pinch us into. So like for example today they banned our Callista. We had a good Callista plan into the Ezreal, didn't work out. So we opted for Varus, which is still really good. I'm not sure why they gave us that, but we got Varus, which scales incredibly well. He's both good early, mid, and late. So you have all of the stages of the game secured for that. And then you just need to execute all of the stages, kind of. We had a bit of a rough mishap in the mid game, so that's why we kind of like had to play for late game and just calm down and play it slow because we knew we outscaled in team fights.
Okay, well, fair play, yeah. Absolutely a big win for you guys. We talked about this one being quite important. Another one secured for you moving forward. So that is a pretty good one for you to start off your week. So with that being said, we're going to say goodbye to you. Namex, anyone that you want to finally shout out or any final words before you go?
Yeah, I want to thank my girlfriend. She's a very lovely girl. I'm going to see her tomorrow on Valentine's Day, and I hope everyone who has someone has a nice Valentine's Day, and everyone who hasn't found that someone, I hope you find them. And yeah, that's about it.
A good player and wholesome. Very nice last message. We're going to send to another break. When we come back, we'll be back with match 2 of today. We are back for game number 2. Rich Gang taking on G2 Hell. Will this be the day that they start to pick up a win? We'll find out very shortly. But, Carvis, we've had wholesome content. We've had Serpent Fang Sion. Are there any other crazy things you're expecting from today?
Well, it's Rich Gang we're dealing with, so yes.
That's what I mean.
there are some shenanigans about to happen in draft, I hope, with Fruity Fresh, a newly challenger. Congratulations. He loves to cook with his champion pool. Both of the Finns actually on that team, just known for playing some unorthodox style picks, with Fruity Fresh bringing out the mages and Stumpy on the top side bringing well, last time he brought Urgot, he's also brought out Maokai, so we'll go right into draft and see what are they cooking.
Is Smolder? Smolder's not enabled yet, is it?
Smolder is not enabled.
Okay, all right. So everyone lives another day. They're not allowed to play against Smolder.
For now.
Yeah, for now you will survive, but we'll find out. Rumble, they're going to be the first ban away, and then Karma. We saw how much of an issue it can be. Even when your team is stronger, Karma's still annoying. So yeah, getting rid of that one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Rich Gang also focusing down the key pick, Sheena, known for her Rumble. Kalta's known for her Callista, trying to eliminate these early game picks that could let G2 take the initiative. They have been playing the early game quite well, even though they are 0-6. So with the Hui banned away, that's targeted at Fruity Fresh. Don't be mistaken, not Tatsumi.
Oh, really?
But the Maokai locked in.
Fruity Fresh did play Aurelion Sol once, right? This is the right.
He plays Aurelion Sol, he plays Swain, he plays Hui, he plays Ziggs, he plays anything AP.
Fruity Fresh is just that ADC that's like, this role is bad. Let me just play anything that isn't an ADC because it's better than ADC, right? And I respect that a lot. But we are seeing some very strong picks coming through. Varus, we already heard Namex talk about how strong this pick is. It's going to come straight into the lock-in. And I feel like it works out really well, right? Because Kaltis, historically for G2, has been their carry, right? That is how they've played the game. They used to play a lot of supportive mids to support that as well. Sheena on an early game champion, it's not surprising. It's their preferred playstyle. Obviously a massive Rek'Sai player, but Vine just fitting a little bit better in the meta.
Yeah, and this kind of denies an Ezreal pick as well. You'd have a ton of catch potential. No matter where he goes, he's going to get caught by the cease and desist. Xayah, though, the usual response into the buy, however, doesn't do too well in lane against Varus. Lucian would be a lot more offensive, challenging the lane bully with even more damage. Paired up with Emilio, not surprising anyone.
Yeah, it was that or Nami, right? It's a couple of picks that we're looking for, but this one is a very strong lane. I like it already, right? Giving a bit of aggression over to the side of Rich Gang. We kind of like, I was talking about it a little bit earlier. I feel like Rich Gang, they just love to fight. They just love to scrap, and sometimes they throw the game, sometimes they win the game. They have won the game more often than they've thrown it, so it does seem to work out for them. But we are going to see that Cassante locked in for G2 Hell on the top side. Leads up being on a tank. I feel like that's pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, however, what isn't standard, the possibility of Maokai being in the top lane is still there. Stumpy already brought it out once, and it was a tank versus tank matchup. Maokai deals a bunch of percentage of health damage. So, surprising amount of lane bully potential and solo kill potential if this will be the top lane matchup. We don't know yet because, well, flex picks are flex picks, and mid lane is the one being targeted out.
Yeah, Carly being taken out there. Also, the Azir being removed. A couple standard ones to come out. I feel like mid lane could get targeted quite a lot in this phase. As don't know how much people are going to be banning out supports. Maybe they try and take away and engage support away from G2 Hell.
Cassiopeia, I think, is the last ban, considering how proficient Shah is on it. Illusion and Maokai both hate playing against that. And on R5, it could be a pain to deal with.
Yeah, so we'll see how they decide to ban this one out. Obviously, just taking the time, you know. You can pick a man. You don't need to rush. There's no hurry coming on here, right? But obviously, from G2 Hell, right, they've got a bit of a front line. They have a bit of damage. They kind of got a bit of consistency. So I do wonder what they're going to lock in there. Ash is going to be banned away. So Cass is open.
Yeah, here's the engaged support you were talking about. Very common against these picks. Now, any carry is going to be dealing with a ton of pain. 2 point and click, even 3 if you count all out from Cassante, dragging you in, out, up, and down before you get to play the game. So Fruity Fresh will be enjoying life today.
Yeah, unless we're getting Lucian mid. You know, you never know. Pretty Fresh might be pulling out something a little bit different. Lilia, though, we talked about it in the last ban phase of the first game, right? Such a strong pick right now. Can just be so elusive, and it does also open the Maokai to be topside.
I think it confirms the Maokai to be topside, unless this is some next level Lilia top lane counter pick. And Twisted Fate, this could be the second game we see of it today.
Is it NLC, maybe?
That's also a possibility. We don't know. It is locked in, so we're gonna find out once the picks are being started to swap around. I still think Cassio may not be too bad here, considering that they have the Nautilus, they have the Vi. Vi ultimate into Miasma is a lethal combination for a mid-jungle duo. Ari also something that I'd consider for G2.
Especially on things like the Lilia, right, on the Lucian. When you get to slow them down, you get to kind of dish out a lot of damage. It's dangerous, but they're going to go for more team fight centered. They're going to go for that Orianna. Shard does play a lot of Orianna as well, so it's not too surprising. But I feel like maybe Cass could have given them that a little bit of extra elevation.
Yeah, the problem with Cass is that you'd have to kite around the Lilia. And Lilia can be a pain to deal with, able to evade Cassio ult pretty easily by just turning around like a speed demon. But the Orianna makes sense. You have the ball carrier system with the Vi. You can easily even put it onto Cassante if he ever makes it into the back line. And the matchup against TF should be pretty good in the early on, especially if this is AD TF. He's not going to be able to respond into the trades at all. You're just free to harass him with command attack, with your auto attacks. You outrange him and outtrade him.
Yeah, and I like this from G2 a little bit more, right? We've seen them play a lot of different comps, right? 3 players have played 6 different picks in their 6 different games. I like that they're kind of going back to what I would kind of atone as being more old school G2 Hell, right? Which is a lot of team fighting prowess with a lot of emphasis on Countess being the main carry. So this feels like a little bit more comfort. From the flip side of Rich Gang, though, they got a lot of damage. They got a lot of fighting. We got Destiny on TF. We got the Lilia that can run around fast. We got Maokai to set up all these fights. They've come with the heat, and we know that Rich Gang likes to turn it on.
Well, we are soon going to be able to head to the Rift and see how do the teams approach this early game that can be quite volatile. There's a bunch of CC on both sides for level 1 shenanigans.
Yeah, I want to see some level 1s, man. Let's get something crazy going out. Ghost on the Twisted Fate mid as well, so he's ready to run you down. But Pretty Fresh, I feel like, is this my first time watching him? Not my first time watching him, but it's been a while since I've seen Pretty Fresh play an actual ADC.
Yeah, previously on 42 Gaming in Division 2, so that's probably the last time you've seen him on the Rift. And contrary to popular belief, he is fairly confident on AD carries as well, especially if its name is Smolder, Ezreal, or what was the last one that he was really good on? Anyway, man plays a ton of AD. Surprising for an AD carry.
Yeah, what an absolute shocker, really, to be honest. No, I'm so impressed by the Smolder thing. I'm really looking forward to seeing next patch, then bring that one out and see if Pretty Fresh actually gets it, or if it's just permabanned against them. We'll find out. But today, we have to think about this game in front of us, right? G2 looking for their first win, and they are going to start on that top side. Obviously, we talked a little bit about how important grubs can be. It ended up not being that big a deal in our last game, so maybe it's going to have a little bit less pro. Maybe the Dragons a little bit more the flavor for tonight.
Lilia, as long as she gets on an objective that she can AoE, is perfectly happy. So, Grub, whether that be Grubs, whether that be the Raptors, everything is a target for Broda in this game, while Sheena is going to be playing aggressive, trying to punish all the immobile lanes in Rich Gang's roster. Nobody can escape a Vault Breaker easily without burning a summoner spell. Stumpy doesn't have a mobility option. Sumi doesn't have a mobility option. Greg doesn't have a mobility option. It's a playground for this fight.
Indeed it is. And Sumi, so let's get a little bit of a push onto this Orianna as well, trying to force Shah back. Will they have the damage? Shah is able to trade quite nicely there. Very even between these 2 mid laners. So we do see Sheena still just clearing out, but Sumi trying to find that little bit of extra damage to finish off this Ori.
Yeah, this lane is Orianna favored because of the outrange. If you don't outrange the TF, then you're going to be dealing with a ton of cards being thrown at you. But here's the
Here
mine.
we go. Sheena with the flash. Ooh, almost taking it down. Sumi, the burn not going to be enough, but forcing the flash, forcing the Twisted Fate to use Ghost as well and leave the lane, giving Shah that extra little advantage they already accrued in that one.
I guess she didn't have the E off of cooldown. Usually you can prevent that flash by buffering the auto attack, so if you flash away, it still connects. Just unfortunate, but still forcing away the TF flash, forcing the recall, gives Shah time to freeze the lane and net herself a bit of an XP advantage, a bit of a gold advantage. Base quality, it will be way better for Shah.
And I'm also really interested to see how Rich Gang are going to play this in terms of where they want to put a lot of their resources, right? Because obviously Stumpy is playing Maokai. He's just going to be setting up for the later stages. But for Refresh on that Lucian, it's quite an early, aggressive powerhouse.
Indeed, and that's why they are still holding that bot lane priority, letting Broda take the Scuttle pretty much for free. Sheena still finishing up her clear, and double Scuttle most likely going to be the objective here, just shoving the additional minions for Sumi to be able to either take a base or go for a roam time onto the top side of the map.
Yeah, and Shah still having a pretty nice time in that lane, right? Still able to kind of trade out with that Twisted Fate. So close to the hook landing there. A little bit unlucky for Colombo Blue. As Sumi, as you said, in terms of like this range thing, it's starting to have a bit of a problem, but Greg it might be able to do something about that.
Last time I was casting G2 Hell, I actually asked, well, we can talk about that. Mid lane.
Ooh, shot is going to go low. I don't think it's enough damage, though, to pick up the... Oh,
yes, it is!
The fourth shot! Oh, my days! Comes in from downtown from Sumi, and that is going to be enough to take the kill. First blood over to the side of Rich Gang.
Don't doubt it. When the deck is stacked, the auto attacks will hurt. G2 Hell looking for counterplay, though.
No flash on Sumi. This could be a lot of damage. The flash is forward. They will be able to connect one. Can they get the second? No. Greg just slightly out of that hook and will be able to survive.
Even with that kill going over to Sumi, that's a ton of XP and CS denied once again by G2 Hell. Look at the CS differential in the mid lane. It's looking painful. Not the mid laner, for Sumi.
Indeed, it is. And what were you saying? You were going to anecdote about maybe Colombo?
Yeah, so last time I was casting G2 Hell a while ago, back when Deep 2 hadn't started yet, actually had to ask how to pronounce Colombo's name, and she said it's fine to just say Colombo or Colombe if if it sounds dumb to say the double BLBL.
No, it's a little bit of a tongue twister, but who knows, mate. With a little bit of practice, we'll all get there. But right now, on this bot side, Fresh still trying to put in a little bit of this pressure, right? Cultist has kind of weathered the storm pretty well so far, but obviously Lilia becoming more and more active on the map will give them some issues as they are going to start up that dragon, and with a little bit of a lead, they are going to start walking over, but Broda doesn't have much mana here, so might be in a little bit of trouble. But here we go. Vi going to go aggressive. First move coming out from Shah, but do they have the damage? The ultimate is going to get them low, but it's not enough. Cultist going to be able to pick up one on the back, but the fight is still continuing. Sumi finally making their way over, but Shah taking so much damage. They will fall down, and the dragon playing a massive part as well. Cultist just getting whittled down. Another team fight going over to Rich Gang as they're going to be stepping forward, looking for even more. Sumi just absolutely unleashing this ridiculous amount of damage on Colombo this early, but will not get the kill for now.
Sumi just feeling so confident and so untouched in a team fight. He's walking forward, closer to the enemies. Please hit me, I'm killing you. But not touched at all. Able to get a couple of kills along with Fruity Fresh. But here's Sheena once again in the mid lane.
They are ready to fight for this. They want to kill off the Twisted Fate, but they just don't have the damage. And I want to talk about that last fight, right? Shockwave came out from Shah, managed to pull in multiple members, but I want to say MVP kind of was the dragon. The damage that they did to Galactus in that fight, just absolutely changing the fate of that 4v4. But in this top side, Lizzie and Stumpy, they're just scrapping. This could take a while, right? All Out is going to come through. Nature's Advance will stop them, and the flash will get Stumpy away.
Yeah, having to burn all of the cooldowns to escape from the all-out, drag away a little bit too far up to be able to escape without those. And yeah, this level 6 is usually the point where this lane starts to turn around a little bit. Maokai providing a bit more utility than K'Sante, maybe, yes. Damage, no.
To be fair, as I said earlier, it's kind of hard to think you're going to outdamage Kazante, because Kazante is just that tank. It's just that tank, right? It's hard to kind of quantify what this champion does, except for just saying it's very similar to old Ornn in terms of they be doing everything.
Indeed. Kazante, there's a reason why he has such high priority. Speaking of priority, Sheena could be looking for a cease and desist here.
I like this. Sheena's had so much potential in this game already, right? Multiple ganks onto mid. Admittedly, they haven't managed to get all of the value out of it. They haven't managed to finish off Sumi a couple of times, but they are able to put the presence known, and they will finally be looking at some objectives there. They managed to get the grubs, but it is going to be the dragon over to Rich Gang here. They'll pick that one up, and they will set in motion potential play for Soul.
Indeed. And I don't know, so far in this early game, we mentioned in draft where G2Hell has been playing this early game quite well, but it feels like they're playing way more confident this time around overall. Finding these repeated ganks onto the mid lanes, shutting Sumi down, at least almost shutting him down. Sadly, due to the kills, he's got himself back into the game, but the attempt was there and it did work out.
Yeah, and if they keep up that confidence, you know, they have a pretty good team fighting side. They could potentially start pushing for the win. But obviously, it's still a lot of game left, right? 9 minutes in, gold lead about 1k to Rich Gang. They've managed to pick up a dragon, but the mites have gone over to G2Hell. So we'll see how that one does in a second, as we are going to see a lullaby to put Shah asleep. The bonk, the stun, is the damage there? It looks likely. The shockwave going to hold him out, but it's not going to be enough. The burn will come through, but here comes Sheena looking to put the cease and desist onto Sumi, but the stun comes out. The destiny to get away as well. And Sumi just absolutely playing an exceptional game.
Smooth Criminal teleports away after getting the kill. The final slow from Broda's bowling ball, saving his mid laner's life. They get the clean escape and they get the kill to go along with it. And we are seeing a ton of action here in this early game. Sadly, Lizzie a little bit too late, even burning the ghost to try to get there in time. Now won't have it for any upcoming skirmishes on the top side of the map. But it just feels like Rich Gang with this TF pick are getting a bit more out of this mid-jungle duo situation.
Yeah, the consistent damage is... I'm really blown away by it, to be honest. I don't feel like we really got to see it too much in that last game. But it is powerful, right? Twisted Fate is dishing out a lot of damage, and I'm kind of a little bit worried to see how much it goes up to in the later stages. But right now, in the spot lane, a little bit more aggression coming out from that side. But again, Cult is still just keeping up in CS with the side of Free Fresh, so they're not going to be too worried.
Indeed. And as we talked with Namex, this Varus scales incredibly well. Further in the game we get, the more tanky he will be, the better the on-hit damage will be, and that's when Rich Gang have to start worrying about positioning, about can they get a catch before, and if they go for catches with, say, Destiny, is there going to be a buy waiting for them in the brushes?
Yeah, let's talk about Windhorn, right? Because obviously Twisted Fate doing a lot of damage right now. Okay, Free Fresh, going to be pretty dangerous on that Lucian in the later stages. And Broda, we've already seen what they can do in these team fights. But are they going to scale super well, right? Obviously the Varus could become a little bit of a problem if Shark can get a late game Shockwave. There's a lot of issues there. Are we looking for a little bit more split push from Rich Gang, or is team fight also going to be their bag?
Personally, I think that it's a pretty even bag between the teams regarding scaling. It's more the style they want to play, where Rich Gang wants to play an extended fight with a TF, Lilia Lucian style, Milio constantly healing, giving them a free get out of jail free card, while G2Hell wants to win in one shot. They want to burn all the ultimates, take down the enemy, and finish the objective or the game. And it's going to be, once again, one of those games where one team will start to take over at the 2 item mark, and whoever starts to take over should have their pedal to the metal until they win the game, since the scaling win condition is not as large as in the previous game we had.
Indeed, indeed. But Mites picked up this time by Rich Gang, so it will be 3 for 3. No spawning of those a little bit later on. So no extra tower pressure for either side. As right now, it feels like G2, they're trying to start to roam across the map, but you have to be a little bit careful about leaving Caltis alone in this lane. I don't think Colombo will be going too far away for now, as it feels like a bit of a lull in this game. But Dragon going to be spawning up in 19 seconds, so maybe a little bit more fire added to this one.
Indeed. Still waiting for the first item power spikes though, even though most of Rich Gang has theirs. G2 Hell lacking, especially in the bot lane. And if Colombo and Caltis can't get a reset before this dragon is started up, they are a little bit unfavored in the fight.
And they need to be careful because Broda is in this bot side, will be able to get there first, and if Caltis gets put to sleep, it could be a game over. Free Fresher going aggressive onto Caltis, will get knocked up, will get locked down, and the damage is coming back with Destiny. Here comes Sumi straight to the front line, a quick kill onto the ADC of G2 Hell, and will shut them down, and still going forward. Sumi has no fear.
This is not how G2 wanted the bot lane fight to go, but top lane.
Lizia looking to pick up this kill onto Stumpy, needs to get this damage down though. Ghost is procced, but Stumpy is healing so much, buying so much time. Can they make it out alive? Dodges out on the knockback, and now that there's no wall out, might actually be able to win this one. Gets a little bit aggressive with it, and Lizia just gonna have to walk away.
Stumpy can dive here. The Q will deal a huge amount of damage if it hits, and W, if that minion didn't die instantly, I think Stumpy would have gone in and looked for the kill. Colombo is rotating over there. They want to 1 versus 2 this, but I don't know if they have the damage to do it.
The healing coming out from Stumpy is unreal. They have managed to get so much health back, and with the hook going slightly to the right, I don't think they're going to be able to get this one.
Scary proposition from Colombo to go for that play. If Stumpy had decided to go for the turnaround, has the Balmy Cinder, has the Frozen Heart, the damage may not have been there. But they do eventually manage to defend against the Maokai pressure up on the top side of the map. And now with the Herald up, they can start looking for picks.
Of course, Colombo is going to find Greg there. Does get the lockdown as Broda. Also, the target that they would absolutely love to find right now. We will give them open access to Rift Herald, but they will not at the moment. And Sumi, this is what I'm really looking at in this game, because Sumi has been absolutely crazy in this one.
Yeah, this TF is completely different from the Ruza one. Doesn't have to go for the utility rapid fire cannon as a second item. The enemy team is so short range, they will always be available for Sumi to get the gold cards, get the stuns off, and hit them with the on-hit proc. So full offense, full fight. Destiny not available yet, but Rich Gang looking for a fight.
Colombo getting absolutely busted down there. G2 Hell looking to try and contest this Herald, but they just do not have the numbers, they didn't have the stats, and they weren't able to find and engage to get their damage off. And it will be Rich Gang once again picking up another team fight win. And also the other thing I want to add is that not only does Sumi not need kind of the extra range due to the short range of G2 Hell, but also they have the Meteor, who gives them extra range anyway.
Indeed. It just feels like Rich Gang has these inherent synergies in the team, even though they probably picked the Milio Lucian lane just to make sure G2 Hell doesn't get it, with Milio being the huge counter to Lilia's sleep. But it's still working out quite well, and it's up to G2 Hell to find a way to look for these 4-man engagements, as they are looking now on the bot side.
Broda, the target for Sheena, gets knocked up there, will be knocked back and finally taken down, but it's 1-for-1 so far. Sumi now stepping forward, so much confidence, but maybe overconfident, as Colt is doing a lot of damage, gets the snipe off, but here comes Fruity Fresh to clean up 2 down immediately. And they're looking for more. Can they get into range of Shah? Getting closer and closer. Do they have what it takes? Can they get into range? Does not have the culling up just yet, and still chasing on, but not going to be able to catch out this Orianna.
Call an ambulance, but not for Rich Gang. They had the guns to bring to the fight themselves. And what looked initially like a great catch from G2 Hell completely turned around once they lost Sheena, the TF crits and burst. Probably not realizing how strong Sumi actually is, even though he got a little bit shut down in the early game. He's been pumping out DPS with the Presti attack procs, with the stacked deck procs, just melting anyone who isn't building armor. If you look at Elysia's inventory, no armor item yet, hasn't finished the Bami Cinder, only plated steel caps there. For Sheena, going full damage and Merc treads, so not even plated steel caps there. It's just no armor whatsoever.
And the damage is unreal. Destiny gonna be propped. Oh, where are they going? Oh, they're going straight on to Shah. They're looking for this aggressive play, and they are just walking them down. Do they have the damage? Yes, they do, in absolute spades. And goodbye once again. Another solo kill from Sumi, and the rest of the team pushing in mid. They're gonna get the charge of the Herald, who will chunk that tower out, but can they finish it off? They're looking to pressure even more. Sumi just crushing these towers on the side lanes.
Indeed. Welcome to Twisted Fate gameplay. We haven't seen you for such a long time in the metagame, but seems like he's finally back even in the AD form. And G2 Hell need to start figuring out a game plan fast, because they are getting split off across the map.
Ooh, maybe this could be it. The engage, though, coming out from Rich Gang once again. They find Columbia, they find Kaldis, and they're looking for more. Stumpy just tanking this tower, unaware that he's taking damage, apparently, and will finally go down. But here is the rebuttal. A good shockwave is going to catch out a couple, but it's not enough. And it feels like we've seen this time and time again. G2 just not having enough damage to pick up these kills.
It's so rough for G2 Hell to defend against the engage potential from Rich Gang. If they find a single good Maokai flank, all of a sudden if they don't have Lysia there, you have to sacrifice either Colombo, who's the main peeler of the team, or Sheena, who's supposed to be diving into the backline with the Trinity Force, taking down either Sumi or Fruity Fresh. And that's not how they want to play these team fights. They want to be who has the initiative, who's starting the fight, not letting the opponent respond to their wombo combos.
Yeah, right now, I feel like the gold is starting to play a big role, right? 6,000 lead over to the side of Rich Gang, and I feel like it's becoming more and more noticeable, right? We've seen a few fights that went G2's way, right? When we saw the one in the bot side that looked pretty good for G2, again, at that point, Rich Gang was still 2-3 gold up, 3 to 4k gold ahead. And it is starting to become more and more prominent as we see these fights. And it makes me question, how did G2 start to get into this? Do they need to look for those picks? Do they need to try and catch out a couple members? Because at the moment, it feels like it's all Rich Gang that are finding these picks, right? Sumi is just able to walk around the map freely and kill anyone he wants. As
long as they are not backed up by anyone. But so far, G2 Hell hasn't shown any plans of shadowing their solo laners on the side lanes. Lizzie, of course, free to do whatever she wants on the top side of the map, since it's so incredibly hard to get Cassante down. Getting the objective bounty would be great, but they just don't have the confidence to keep that push going for now. As long as Lysia manages to join the fights eventually, they should have a better chance of fighting these objective fights, or even look for picks themselves. But for now, it seems like both teams fairly happy to just farm up and shove it inside lanes.
Yeah, but it's gonna be Dragon Soul. Now it is Cloud, so as you said, it's not gonna be like the absolute game changer, right? It is pretty nice on Lilia, and also I feel like it's quite nice on Sumi too. So maybe a couple members will be benefiting quite a bit from Cloud Soul, but it's not the same as like Infernal. It's not the same as Hex Tech, which would really change the course of the game. And also, is there a world where if you're Rich Gang, you maybe don't go for the Dragon because you don't want to give a potential Elder Dragon flip?
I mean, technically, yes, but considering the gold lead, they shouldn't be caring about that too much. If they ever get contested on the Elder Dragon, they can just turn it around. Elder Dragon isn't as dangerous as Baroness, DPS-wise nowadays, so you can just fairly easily just hold on to the aggro and turn it around at some point. You have the Maokai, you have the Flash, you have the Lilia, who can, like a speed demon, run at you and look for the 3 to 4 man sleep. And it's a weird situation on the map, since Rich Gang doesn't have too much siege. They have the dive, they have the split push, but G2 are just holding on the rest of the map.
Well, they may not have Siege, but if they get Baron, they definitely will. So they're going to start this one up. They're looking for the purple buff that could change everything. Sumi lurking around, trying to find himself a pick. Destiny is going to be used to force G2 Hell away, and it has really wavered their confidence. They're not looking to go aggressive until now. Greg is caught out. Shockwave to pick up that support, but look at the backline. Sumi absolutely shredding through Shah, but however has to change target. Columbia Blue is the next one though, and will be removed. And in the backside of this fight, Stumpy gone a little bit too deep, able to start to walk out. But right now, here comes Sumi once again. The damage, the gold card goes down. Sheena is going to be popped, and Kaltis, no one in front of them to protect them. Fruity Fresh finds another kill, and a big ace for the side of Rich Gang.
I really wish we had a replay of this fight, because G2 Hell used everything on the Milio. They had no cooldowns to continue the rest of the fight, while Rich Gang had everything to blow onto the entirety of G2 Hell. And on the back lines at the Baron pit, you may have seen Sheena flash into the pit thinking that the Baron is still being done by Fruity Fresh, who was actually just channeling the culling from the Baron pit. It was still at 3k, so Sheena flashed over the wall, realized, oh crap, the Baron's still alive, and had to go with a Vault Breaker back over the wall to join the rest of the team fight. So just a bunch of small misplays accumulating up for G2 Hell in the critical team fight.
Yeah, and again, we've got to talk about the numbers. Right? It's the gold lead as well. It's coming in 3 items on the Twisted Fate versus the 1.5 from Shah. It's to be honest, it's just a little bit of a stack check from the Twisted Fate, right? I feel like Sumi is just so comfortable just being like, yeah, I can do all this damage and you can't really do anything back to me.
And he doesn't even have the rapid fire cannon yet. In the previous game, we saw that without the rapid fire cannon, the TF wasn't really able to participate in the matches, in the fights too much. But now, with Sumi being the absolute monster here, we're going to talk about this later.
Oh, here we go. Sheena, though, straight into the culling, gets burned down. The sleep just splitting up this fight. And now Kaltis having to run away from Stumpy as well, as Broda steps forward into the front line. Kaltis getting pushed back and they need to run away. But Lilia is so fast, chasing them down. The slows, the damage, it's all too much. And G2 Hell will fall. Look who's back again. It's Sumi. Another kill for the Twisted Fate and another ace for Rich Gang.
It's not only Sumi who can stat check, the rest of Rich Gang has money in the bank and they've brought items. Finally heading up to the Baron, they may have been able to even go for the inhibitors instead, and then on the back play go for the Baron. But this is a safer way. They are over 10k ahead. They feel their power and will look to close out both objectives, get the soul, get the Baron, and then go for the game.
I'm not gonna lie, this build is crazy. Twisted Fate be doing a lot in this game, right? Like, I want to see the damage stats after. He's now with a rapid fire cannon as well. So we said, okay, maybe there's a bit of hope because he's short range. Well, not anymore.
And usually when I'm testing the games, I like to call the 10k advantage the point of no return, or of almost no return, where it's incredibly difficult to win the game, especially if your jungler is getting caught. They're sandwiching G2
Here we
Hell.
go. Kaltis getting caught out. Columbia Blue on the side as well, going to be taken down. And this feels like the end of the game. Rich Gang picking up 2 more with the Baron up. Minions should be able to push in this bot side and start to open up this base.
It's starting to look extremely rough, let's be real.
Yeah, we will win there.
G2 need they need a miracle. Lizia getting the objective bounty is a good start, but they need to somehow hold on to Kaltis respawning and then get a shockwave that catches every single member of Rich Gang and separates the front line from the back line.
Yeah, we said Rich Gang wanted to fight. They've done just that. Now they're opening up the base. 2 inhibs will go down. Do they push for the end right here? 5 members of G2 Hell are up, but the Baron buff is still powered. Another minute and a half before that one ends, and they are just going to start sending in a bit of damage. Can they pick up this win? Waves are pushing. Cannon minions are now blasting, and Sumi is walking around waiting for the rapid fire to go up. so he can land that gold card from downtown. They're pushing in this wave. That will be the first tower gone. They're looking for the second as Clumper Blue going to get that knock up. They're going to go aggressive here as Sumi into the backline, gets stunned up and might go down. Caldas managing to pick up that kill, but can they finish off the rest? Free and Fresh stepping forward with the damage, absolutely shredding through the Vi, and Shaw now on the fountain trying to hold out, but Stumpy finishes off the tower. The damage rains in and Rich Gang will win.
Well, Rich Gang with a statement game. We may have lost a couple of games, but they are definitely not out. Complete annihilation in the later stages of the game and a confident win.
I feel like Rich Gang play the same whether they win or lose. Like they just go for the fights. They go for the plays. They look strong. They look confident. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Oh, I feel like I was about to sneeze there, but I did not. And Carvis, what is your takeaway from Rich Gang? What is their key to success? Because it feels like they do just play with no fear, and it so far has worked out for them.
When Rich Gang is 5k up, they want to go in because they feel they need to extend their advantage. When they're even, they think they have to fight because they need to get a lead. When they're down, might as well fight because we have to even the game out. And the aggressive game plan is what they are good at. And just, as you said, fighting is what this team does best.
It's a philosophy that we've seen at work for Rich Gang. We're going to get an interview with one of their players, and maybe we'll bring that one up a little bit later. But for now, we're going to go for a break. When we come back, interview will be here. welcome back. And we are here with an interview. Let's bring them in. It's Fruity Fresh from Rich Gang. Welcome back to the NLC Div 2. And I've got to kick it off, right, with one simple question. What is the actual philosophy of Rich Gang? Because we just feel like you guys just love a fight.
All right. Hello. Well, I mean, you get bored if you don't fight, right?
Hey, you know what? Yeah, fair enough.
That's completely fair. And you guys are playing extremely aggressive, even with your own style. You have a ton of spicy picks from the team. Sumi playing aggressive mid laners with the bring out ADTF. You have Stumpy on top lane Maokai. This time you played standard, but you are known for your own spicy picks. Do you feel like it's better at this level to play this own style instead of the meta?
I think for sure comfort in this Div 2 is really high value because of the players just being able to play champions they know well, better than the actual meta. Of course, it's good to follow the meta to a certain point, but if your team is really flexible and can bring out like some juicy counter picks, they're always welcome, I think.
Okay, fair. And I got to ask, right? For me, I know you as the dude that played Aurelion Sol, right? That's like a real standing point in my mind. I've heard that you now got Challenger on Smolder, so congratulations on that. Is there a world where we get to see Smolder potentially if it's not banned away? And also another question, because you love Dragons so much, are you potentially going to play Shyvana bot lane as well? Is that on the cards?
Nah, not Shyvana bot lane. It doesn't really work out that well because it's a melee champion. But you guys just have to wait for the next patch, so Smolder will be enabled, and then Aurelion Sol also got like a slight need buff for the bot lane. So let's hope that all the teams don't ban my dragons away, so I'm for sure gonna pick him up. Just wait.
I love the fact that him saying, no, Shyvana doesn't work out in the bot lane implies that he has tested it at least. But last but not least, for Rich Gang, you guys looked extremely strong from the start, and then you took a couple of losses against 42 and Unique, the most latest one. This time around, you looked a lot more confident than in the game against Unique. Did something change in the team's mentality? Did you guys figure out what was going wrong?
I think the first week for us was pretty busy, so we scheduled like 4 games in the first week, or the second, I'm not really sure how it went. But anyway, so we had a lot of officials and literally no scrims in between. So we kind of just got caught to the officials and also the patch changed. So the meta changed a bit as well. So we just didn't have enough practice and just were out of shape. We just had to take a step back, have a couple days off, and do a couple scrims and review the officials as well. Then we just saw how we were playing the comp wrong or how we were playing the games wrong, and we just fixed those. And I think now we're really good to go and stomp the Div 2.
Okay, fair enough. I like it. I like the confidence. Obviously, you guys showed that in your gameplay today as well. Now, that is going to be all from our interview. Fruity Fresh, you have anyone that you want to shout or any final words before we let you go?
Turvallista kotimatkaa to the Finnish viewers.
Okay, I don't know what that means. Carvis, hopefully you can translate.
Have a safe trip home.
Okay, all right. I like it very much. Wholesome. We've had some awesome interviews right now. What I'm going to say is that is going to be us from the second game. Me and Carlos are both going to be dipping out because it's pancake day and I need to be eating some pancakes. But we will be having more games on your way. I believe that it's Brackish and Bloxer taking us through next.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the NLC Division 2 broadcast. I am slightly off camera, so I'm going to dip back down. I'm Brackish Brit, joined that direction by the B Team brethren, like blocks it. Max, it's been too long since we have been together, and even more so since we've been together on Division 2. It feels like a bit of a homecoming.
Absolutely. I mean, I love doing Division 2, but it's just not the same without you, so it's going to be good to get back. Hopefully the duo is not too rusty, but I don't know. B Team's always the most fun.
Glad to hear it. I'm always going to keep it fresh. And I mean, we've got a heck of a game coming up for our third game of the day as well. 42 Gaming trying to break the fourth wall in more than one sense, trying to get their fourth win on the board as well. Fourth wall sat as the wall at the top of our standings as well. 5-1 right now. Looking incredibly strong. We could point at pretty much any member of this team and say why they're so strong, though.
Yeah, I mean, every single member right now is just on an absolute tear. Fourth wall have been sort of just taking the entire league by storm. They only lost to Rich Gang, which a little bit of an odd one. Rich Gang has looked like a good squad. Certainly, we just saw them having a pretty good game, but to get that loss right there, I wasn't really expecting it. Other than that, though, Fourth Wall have just been running through all of their opponents. So Victor is a guy that were talking about, beforehand, how much we've been following him, been around the league for ages and ages, but all of these names are really, showing up in this tournament.
Yeah, and it's in this 14-2 environment as well. I mean, Sir Victor is known for a certain champion. We haven't seen him pull it out yet, but it did get buffed on this patch.
Yeah.
Like, is he just going to keep playing Aatrox, or would he maybe see a bit of the Shen coming out?
I think the Shen could really work with the way that this team likes to play. They like to all be getting around the map, try to get involved in bot lane plays as much as possible, and just in the current meta, the ability to maybe swap your top and your bot lane around a little bit earlier on, get them up to the top side around grubs, potentially fight around those, a return to the lane swap meta. I'm not certain we're going to see something like that, but if any team could pull it out, if you've got a Shen main on your squad, why not? At the same time, though, Sir Victor's been having a perfectly good time on the Aatrox and the Cassante. Those champions are incredibly strong at the moment, so no real need to move it around. Don't fix it. It definitely is not broken.
Yeah, I feel like speculation is going to be short-lived, as if my ears do not deceive me. Draft is indeed upon us. Fourth wall taking the blue side for this game. I think the scores are slightly muddled, but I'm sure that will be modified soon enough. We've got 5-1 for fourth wall. We got 3 and 2. 3 and 2?
3 and 2.
Ah, okay. Yes, 42 have a game in hand, so 3 and 2 for them currently, trying to get to 4 and 2. Van's coming through, and it's all bot lane focus right now. Ezreal's gone, Draven's gone, Senna's gone. we could still see the likes of Varus, Karma, obviously, the touted quad flex on 14-2. There's still plenty of things to take away.
There really are, and even some of the weird ones like the Hui that we've been seeing kind of into any lane that you could potentially want him to go into. Why not at this point? The Vayne has also been popping up as a really good anti-tank measure, although you've got to be pretty careful with what plays you actually pick that one up into. A little bit short range can be a bit risky. Finally going to see a move away from just the bot lane bans. Brand, that Brongle it's so incredibly strong. It makes stepping up to any potential team fights devastating, and yesterday I witnessed a team lose Soul to another team because they all had Brand ult on them and it took the dragon away from them, even though the jungler was dead. So if we could not get a repeat of that one, actually, that would be ideal.
Yeah, this doing champion has been tapped on more recent patches, but 14-2 still on absolute terror, and it's still seeing play after the fact, so good to see that one taken away. Hui, as you mentioned, the last one gone. And it seems that Fourth Wall looking to prioritize the Maokai. We've seen quite a lot of Maokai prio in this so far. I mean, just last game, it got taken by Rich Gang into the top lane.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good flex at the moment. I do love the flex meta, and I mean, if this Karma is locked in right now, again, we don't know really where any of these champions are going. Both of these can go sort of all over the map. Xin Zhao, he's just a really strong jungler at this point. He's pretty good into the Maokai. You can 1v1 a Maokai pretty easily. You get a lot more early prio as well. Not surprised to see this Aphelios be poked up. I don't actually think that Vivi has played anything else this entire split so far. He's just the Aphelios guy, and I feel like at some point you might have to ban it. I understand having to take away the Draven, but if you're going to give over the Aphelios and lose to it every time, maybe you need to change that one around.
When you're 5-1, I think you can very much be a big proponent for Fourth Wall of if it ain't broke, because it's on the opponents to find ways to beat them. Rich Gang did. We'll see if 42 can find a way to mirror that. The Varus was not banned away. That will be taken by 42 as their final pick of the first rotation. Where are you expecting ban prio to go now, Max?
It really depends where you're thinking these Maokai and Karma are going, because they are still wide open. If you think that it's going up into the top lane, then you really still need to get some jungle support bans going. Both of these teams have really kept things quite open. The identities of this team, 42's got a lot of poke already. Anytime that you've got a Karma and Varus, you can put that into the bot lane specifically, and that outranges an Aphelios, which doesn't happen very often. Aphelios is usually pretty safe, likes to sit quite far back, but you can't really step up to a Varus Karma combo. So if that is the bot lane, you might want to really focus on getting yourself a good matchup into the top and mid lane that you can gank with your Maokai or whatever other jungler you want. Otherwise, you're not really going to have a bot lane to focus around, unless of course you manage to pick a really aggressive support, something maybe really aggressive like the Leona Alistar. I know they've been falling off in priority compared to enchanters recently, but in a counter, if you can actually just get on top of a Karma, that's when you can begin to change that matchup around.
So, absolutely. And there's the flip side. I was going to say top lane is being heavily focused. Maybe we see that Shen we talked about. 42, they have done their reading. They remember what this champion is capable of in Sir Victor's hands. Will not be locked in. Are we going 4-for-4 on top laners here?
If we do, that completely eliminates all of the pool that Sir Victor
what would
has
go
played.
At this point? We've got a lot of the big ones already gone, right?
Everything that he has actually played this split is already gone. He had only played the K'Sante and the Shen, and both of those are taken off the board. The Maokai obviously still available. That's the joys of picking that up as a first flex pick for Fourth Wall. I'm sure that Sir Victor can play. He's been around the block enough times to have that Maokai under his belt. Virtuoso has a much wider champion pool, has played things like the Jax that we just saw hovered, has also played things like the Udyr, so could really get a little bit more spicy with it. Possibly just going to look to concede that top lane, or perfectly reasonable in all situations. He doesn't really have too many particularly bad matchups, and this composition could be effective late game, so those ornaments have the potential to come online. Fourth Wall, the Gnar would be super spicy, and they do go for it. I've seen plenty of Gnars win this matchup, but I've also seen plenty of Gnars lose this matchup. I'd put it solidly in the skill matchup category.
And we see the comp from Fourth Wall rounded out with the Nautilus from Fabio. Just to see what Rexat wants to lock in for this final pick out of 42. Obviously, the Karma can still go bot lane, but this is going to be the time that is telling. Leona has been historically a pretty good counter pick into the Nautilus. Just ends up out tanking him.
Yeah.
In those situations where you just need something to survive, and it will be locked in. So from what we see here, Influentic is going to be the one taking the Karma into the mid lane, and Virtuoso course, or Virtuoso, rather, with the Ornn in the top lane. Honestly, I was wondering about the Maokai right until the end there, or until the Gnar got locked in, because I think Maokai has a perfectly fine time into the Ornn as well. Both of them, they can't really kill the other. I mean, obviously you have the Ornn level 4, he's an assassin as well as everything else he normally does around that point in the game. But if you get past that as the Maokai, you're both just kind of scaling into the game to becoming, you know, those big engage, disengage, nigh unkillable front lines.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to your ultis at that point. I would also add, though, that the Gnar doesn't necessarily give as much in straight up skirmishes. He's not quite as tanky. You really are relying on that level 6 to be dealing a lot of your CC, and you've got to play around that Gnar bar, whereas that Ornn can get tanky Keta really engaged in any of the potential plays around the top side with those grubs, with that Herald, and the fact that you can pick yourself up items as well means that you're more likely to just be in the top lane in general around for any of those potential plays. So I do prefer having the Ornn in this situation, but once you get into those big team fights, a Gnar into the backline can be devastating, and you do have more damage available to you. It depends what the build is going to be. I've seen Gnars go pretty bruiser heavy, not really looking towards those massive damage carries that I think we were seeing pop up at the end of last split. So, you know, still going to be tanky enough, going to be dealing enough damage to be a threat. These compositions overall, though, I mean, there's just a lot of poke on 42's competition.
And there's a lot of frontline throughout as well, so it's going to be a case of whether 42's poke can be effective. Because if you're hitting it onto Warrior, and especially Sir Victor when he's in Mega Gnar mode, then not really going to mean as much.
Yeah.
You can sustain through that pretty easily. But if you're able to consistently hit onto Pipey playing on this Aphelios, then that's when things start to look a little bit rough for Fourth Wall. Because if your main damage carries cannot do damage, then yeah, things start to become problematic.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple, isn't it? If you are not in a situation where you are able to just sit and auto-attack, as a lot of these carries, I mean, Aphelios, I think specifically, if you're getting chased around, you are not dealing any damage at all. Varus, a little bit safer, does like to sit a lot further back. Aphelios only really able to have that luxury when you have the green gun up, so it's going to be all about who's able to sit in on these team fights, just lay down the damage that you're looking for. You're also in a situation, I think, as 42, where your damage profile is not smooth. It's not like you have a big, high damage mid laner. Karma does a surprising amount of damage, but she isn't that big wombo combo threat that an Orianna is.
No, Syndra Orianna, she is not going to be able to provide even more survivability to this already very tanky comp coming later into the game. I mean, Ornn, Leona, Xin Zhao able to absorb so much damage thanks to all of his healing, and the Crescent Guard being able to negate a lot of damage as well. So there is this sort of play pattern, which I'm imagining from 42, of you get a little bit of poke down, and when the engage comes through, as so long as your main damage dealers aren't threatened, never mind. I was thinking this was a standard 5-point, but 3 members, I believe completely unseen, step into the bot side jungle of Fourth Wall, which means that Lagia, if this goes or continues to be unseen, we may well see a 3-quadrant clear for this Xin Zhao very early. Of course, Maokai doesn't worry about the gold too much, but if he falls behind an XP, that could be a big problem.
Yeah, it would be pretty devastating. I mean, especially because it is a Xin Zhao who just is looking to get as much farm as possible early on, convert that into a first buy, get strong, and then just get involved, try to deal as much damage as possible, gank as much as possible. You begin to fall off towards the later stages of the game. It's much harder to play a Xin Zhao than it is a Maokai around big team fights, so just doing what you can as early as possible is going to be really important right now. It's going to take away this red buff, go for the Krugs as well. Now, the pings did come down. Hey, our bot lane was late to lane. Clearly expecting it to have been onto his own blue buff, though, for 42, so yeah, just gonna walk down and see that his stuff's gone. Oh, man.
And now it is at 2 minutes 38. Warrior realizes that his bot side camps are gone, and Lagia is walking straight out. The hoodwink is completed by 42, and it's the Xin Zhao who will be able to full clear his own quadrants. And the only thing that's realistically left for the Maokai, unless he hotfoots it towards the opposing red buff, is going to be just a scuttle.
you have to do in this situation is at least go and check, see if it's available. I'm not sure I agree out of Liga to sit around and slow down. I think that you run straight to your red side in this situation to try to ensure that there really is nowhere for Warrior to go. You're stronger in a 1v1 at this point than this Maokai anyway. Instead is going to end up conceding at least these chickens because Liga's still taking onto this blue buff. Likely going to head down for the Scuttle Crab right away, and it does just end us with a split map situation
Engage
instead.
comes in, Rexat. Going to get a little bit of damage down. The hook comes back, but the Eclipse is going to mean that the Leona is able to absorb so much of that damage. And Influentic did step out of lane briefly, did spot out the Maokai, but now, yeah, as you mentioned, Legia, walking across mid lane right now, is going to get to his blue buff and quite possibly find it gone. Warrior is there with a smite ready.
Warrior not going to be able to get this one low enough to actually take it out, though. Is going to reset, and Liga's got to be pretty happy with what he's picking up here. It's not the full shutout, only one quadrant available to the enemy jungler, but it's about as close as you're going to be able to get for those ones. Oh, that was really close.
Piper is so low here. You have to wait for the come to that. Wait for the wave to come to them.
Yeah.
This
No.
potential
Oh,
dive.
they're going
There
to
is
dive
the.
this.
Gotta wait for that damage to come through, though. Zenith Blade misses,
dead.
and his first
Chrissy
blood
tanked
picked up by
first.
Fourth Wall as the bag gets fumbled by 42. 2 kills over to Pipey and Fabio.
Oh, no.
I don't know what
Oh,
quite happened there.
no.
It looked like Chrissy and Rexat were really confused over who was trying to take
Yeah.
aggro first.
Rexat needed to take that aggro. Chrissy got immediately stunned up just through that Nautilus passive auto attack, and then took an auto attack to start tanking that tower, immediately died, and then Rexat just sat there underneath the tower, absolutely nothing to do. Dies too. One of the kills does go over to Pippi, which is ideal as well. And what was a really dominant position for 42's bot lane, actually getting a lot of push onto this Aphelios like we were expecting. All of a sudden, you've given over a kill, and look at this base that's coming back. 2 swords as well as a recurve bow. Super strong position for an Aphelios who should be in their weakest stage right now.
Yeah, well on the way to a first item now after that tower dive blunder, and Sir Victor is not letting Virtuoso have an inch in this lane, already starting to build up a nice little CS lead. Of course, Theon does have TP available, does have the unsealed spellbook, and so if he's not forced back to, or if he's able to complete it back, then it'll be fine. Warrior, you can see, is going to start off the grubs, but Legia, more than aware of it, is going to leverage the bot lane prior, even though those kills went across. Will be the very standard trade that we tend to see. Grubs for blue, Drake for red, all is pretty standard.
Yeah, nothing is too out of the ordinary right now. Those 2 kills going over, just changing up would have been a very standard back and forth early game. You can see, yeah, you've still got a lot of push down in this bottom lane. That comes from Bavaris just being able to outrange, outpoke constantly. And because, like you were saying, Nautilus doesn't really want to go in onto a Leona. You're sort of sat in a situation between these two where actually the person to go in first usually ends up losing out in this situation.
The one that
you
loses.
yeah, you dump all of your CC far too early if you're the one initiating.
Influence
going
going
for play.
in, finds himself underneath the turret though. Toxie might just be able to walk this one down. Flash is available
Flash.
for both mid laners. The speed up is there. Influentic will be able to make the space required to survive. Of course, there is no shockwave available. The gear might just be able to find the way in. Flash from the Xin Xiao. Wind becomes lightning. Does not find Toxie. The flash will be used. So the extended trade is 42 favorable. Of course, TP is available for both mid laners as well. Mr. Victor misses the wallop onto Virtuoso, but is continuing to keep up the pressure.
Yeah, not exactly who you really want to be leaping on top of. Sure, Meganar's pretty scary to most champions, but to an Ornn, not really. Just going to use that ult to buy himself a little bit of space. And these top laners going to return back to being their own individual islands. Sort of a top lane playstyle that we haven't seen for, God, a good couple of months at this point. Top lane has been a pretty explosive lane recently. Nah, Ornn feels like one of those classic matchups that we
dropping the
see.
ignite onto Sir Victor as well. The flash dodges the second part of the Call of the Forged God. That's why I love Unsealed Spellbook on Ornn. You can really turn it on. You pick up the ignite, you pick up the exhaust, and you, like, it is just a straight up respect me button.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I'm saying that the top lane is a little bit of an island, but both of the junglers were hovering in the area. Everything had disengaged by the time they got there, though, and still junglers looking for their first potential ganks. This bot lane set of kills will only really come into play later on in the game once we start getting those 2 to 3 items that an Aphelios really needs. Pharah spikes a little bit earlier on with this lethality build, so there is a potential situation where Fourth Wall just start to fall behind a little bit, but at the same time, Ligeia hasn't really found any of those big ganks that would really set that off. We've got a while until the next Drake and Grugs spawn. Yeah, this game's pretty even at the moment, I'd say.
Yeah, right now we're waiting, as I said, for those grubs to come back up, for a second Drake to spawn. Really determine the pecking order of this game, obviously. Fourth Wall do hold a slight advantage thanks to those kills picked up, so Victor can put some damage down onto the two. So again, but the kill threat just isn't really there. It is an Ornn.
You can deal quite a lot of damage to an Ornn, but you always have to respect it. Those brittle procs can just do so much. More importantly, for Sir Victor, using that range versus melee advantage to be able to push in this wave constantly, get a lot of pressure onto this turret, and then that can turn into the grubs, because you've constantly got that top lane pressure. You can move first as Sir Victor. Vituso would have to lose out on a lot of experience and gold to move first to try to get involved in any of these plays. So this pressure from Sir Victor, sure, maybe you don't end up getting a kill, but it's still absolutely creating an advantage in this top lane.
Yeah, forcing the Ornn to stay under tower, as I said, makes it harder for him to participate in any potential plays. Right now, though, things, trades back and forth, but we seem to have hit a fairly standard sort of lull state while waiting for those next big objectives. So Victor can put a bit of damage down onto the tower, but again, not too much to speak of. Junglers are clearing. Grub should be up in about a minute time. We can already see, actually, this bot lane moving towards mid. So it does look like 42 do want to prevent Fourth Wall from getting the 5-6 buff.
Yeah, the 5-6 buff would be absolutely huge right now if you give it over to Fourth Wall. When you've got a Gnar, there's always a massive split push threat available to you. Ligeia going to be able to get straight on top of this one, but there is going to be a response out of... Never mind, Warrior just going to give it up, so it's just going to be 3 for 3 unless he decides to turn later on after getting himself this Gromp. This is a bit of an odd decision.
If we look bot lane, is Pipey and Fabio spotted out that Chrissy and Rexat came to mid lane. And so instead, they're going to trade in gold. They get 3 plates off of this bot lane turret. Vituso is going to be there to catch the wave eventually. But, okay, yeah, buff is denied, as we were saying.
But it's just denied.
That's
it's
a good
just
chunk more gold.
Yeah. That is very true. You are getting more gold, although there's going to be a collapse right here.
Pipey needs to be in a little bit of trouble.
Oh.
Damage coming forwards. The cleanse is burned. Flash is still available. But it's going to be the dive forwards from Rex at the Ignite. Will pick that kill up. Warrior too slow to join the play. Fabio may need to worry about his own life here as we see Ligeia making his own way down towards the bottom lane.
Rexat's the one who picks up that kill, so it's not the end of the world. Fourth Wall still got caught a little bit too far up, and it is going to turn into this Drake as well. That is the risk that you take when you're in the top lane area, but you don't take the grubs, and also don't try to get right onto the Drake. End up losing out on both. Yeah, you don't get the second set of grubs. Oof, so Victor got pretty low in that situation. Influentic gonna chase.
In full bully mode. Victor though flicks him back. The damage coming through. The healing, however, from the Mantra Renewal is doing quite a lot of work. Influentic dropping low. The flash going forwards. The Victor does not have his own flash. If Influentic can drop the damage, there's the root. There's the Soul Flare, and it will be Influentic securing Fourth Wall's 42's second kill of the game.
It's a very Influentic play to somehow make Karma look a little bit flashy. You know, managed to pick up a kill in that 1v1 situation. So Victor really didn't need to go in right there. You aren't going to get solo killed back by an Ornn as a Gnar unless you do something really wrong. But Karma in the current patch has so much healing and shielding available to her while still dealing a decent amount of damage. I was saying that she's not a complete carry, but that's not to say she doesn't deal enough, especially in these early stages of the game. There's a reason that supports have a lot of damage early that drops off. Their scalings aren't good. That's what makes them supports rather than being mid lane threats. But right now, Karma has a lot of base damage that can scale pretty well. Unfortunately, Sir Victor finding out the hard way that you don't really want to mess with the Karma at the moment.
I mean, it's in her name. You mess around, you are not going to necessarily have a good time of it. Minute left on the plates here. We can see Fourth Wall heading towards the top lane, trying to get some more gold into their pockets before they drop the gear. Is there on the Krugs. I think they are aware of Warrior being present, and I think the spotting out of the gear towards the top side of the field may make it more difficult for a play to happen. That said, Fabio is crossing around.
It is on.
The call has been made, though. Vituso is able to clear the wave quickly enough. Already got a Frozen Heart, got the Balmy Cinder in pocket as well. And now I think we're all just looking towards the Herald in 30 seconds' time.
This is going to be a big one. For Wall have conceded quite a lot of objectives recently. They managed to get a little chunk of gold onto their AD carry. That's pretty good. Bippy is in a nice spot with 1 item completed, but still quite a ways off of that 3-item spike that you're looking for on the Aphelios. You just need to stem the bleeding right now. Both of these teams have decent late games. Obviously, with the Ornn, you've got that next level with those ornaments potentially coming through. As look like we're going to jump into a quick pause. Hopefully, we can resolve this one nice and fast. We'll get confirmation for you on what's gone wrong, but it gives us a chance to really talk about the way that this early game has gone and what we're looking for as we get into the later stages of the game.
Absolutely. Right now, we see it's been little scraps here and there, but it's not been a full descent into chaos. This has been a pretty measured early game from both teams. The kills that have gone through have mostly been off the back of unforced errors, I want to say. Like the bottom lane dive out of 42 Gaming was quite badly fumbled. The kills picked up by 42 were a little bit of hubris on the return side, like Sir Victor's death, as we just saw. As we are going to get straight back onto the Rift, and it's all about the Herald.
Yeah.
Coming up
really
in 30 seconds time. As we figure out what sort of time pace we're trying to work at. There we go. And we see everybody is converging towards the top side right now. Shelly is all anyone cares about.
See where the interaction is going to be. All 5 members are available. All of the big ults are up as well. This Ornhorn could be absolutely crucial.
Fourth Wall is way better grouped right now, but 42 is able to hold the choke point pretty well.
Chrissy.
Chain of Corruption lands onto Sir Victor, who is currently only mini-Nar. Call the Fortune did not
the
come through, though, as
shockwave.
Proxy drops the Shockwave, and it's huge damage across 42. Lagia is able to take Piper down in the backside, but the rest of the squad is not looking so good. Warrior is going to get burned down by Rexat. The flash is out. Sir Victor, however, about to go mega. The Gnar pulls them back, and it's Fourth Wall who will rip 42 apart in the fight.
Oh, that was a fight of inches right there. A few key moments. Chrissy managing to land the Chains of Corruption, but it's onto Sir Victor. Not exactly the target you're looking to burst 100-0, and they're not able to do so. And then multiple members group up, and despite the fact that Virtuoso, had a very good Ornn ultimate, Toxie's Shockwave was just better. It hit onto more members. That's now a 3-0-2 onto that Orianna. Absolutely huge. And that's exactly what you didn't want to have happen as 42. You'd been in control a lot of these objectives. You were in a really nice spot. But all of a sudden, you're going to have to concede at least this top lane pressure. It should just be that Shelly going over to Fourth Wall. And you don't really get that much back. You get a kill back off of it, I think, but not really anything too much. The majority of the kills on your team is onto your support.
And Toxie erupts into the game. Was not present for any of the action that had happened thus far in the game. Just farming up, nice and quiet, has already been stacking up, and in fact is just on the brink of completing a Seraph's Embrace around the 16-minute mark. One more spellcast will do it, there we go. And on top of that, has an 8-stack Dark Seal that they picked up prior to that Herald fight, and has a Needlessly as well. This is a slingshot
Orianna
and a
hurts.
half.
Yep. This Orianna hurts. Seriously hurts. And if you can hit another big shockwave like that, now you've got some completed items. It's not just a huge disruptor and CC ulti, it's the one that kills everybody in your path. And you've got a great ADC to be able to follow up from that. I think a lot of teams struggle when they've got an Aphelios because the Aphelios isn't able to just sit and hit. They need to be the one stepping up dealing the damage. When you've got an Orianna, that's not your job. You can just sit back, allow the shockwave to bring targets to you, keep yourself safe. If he does right now also have red and white, so it would be a little bit of a terrifying time to step up. I'm not sure if 42 are going to want to fight right now for this Hex Check Drake. At the same time, it would be their sole point if they can get it.
Yeah, and Fourth Wall had a situation where the enemy was coming to them, but instead they choose to filter towards the mid lane. And now they're the ones who have to walk in. Batuso and Influentic are the ones trying to apply the pressure to keep them out. But Savictor on the flank comes in, goes Mega, but there's a lot of CC drop down. Depth charge onto Chrissy, and the Varus will melt on the back line. 42 are trying to bring the damage in. Influentic with his own flash doing some great work. Toxie dropping low, but Vatuso is only going to stay alive for so long. Toxie will drop to Influentic, but there's more Fourth Wall members about. It's going to be Influentic using the Hex Gate to get out. There's no smite available for them, and they are going to have to give this one up as Fabio chasing Rexat away as well.
I love the way that Sir Victor has been playing these fights, just absorbing so much damage, taking so many of the CC abilities from 42 and just living, using this slightly tanky, slightly damage-based Nard that is the Bruiser build to great effect, as everybody from Fourth Wall were like, perfect, you're all focusing on Sir Victor. Chrissy, you don't get to live anymore. Chrissy just got dogpiled in that fight, taken out pretty much immediately, and it's only because Influentic had so many heals and shields that he was able to survive for as long as he did.
Warrior is going to find Influentic towards the bot side off camera. Another kill picked up for Sir Victor. Now 4-1-3, rampaging his way into the mid lane. And Fourth Wall, they have started to explode that gold lead as well. They are up to around a 3.5k lead. The kills very much in their favor right now. Sir Victor, apart from that earlier blunder, now is definitely in a position where Virtuoso cannot deal with him.
Really can't. You can't step up to this Gnar even slightly. With that Trinity Force, you're not as tanky anymore. Sure, you've got yourself that Frozen Heart. It does slow the Gnar down. You're still unlikely to get 1v1'd, but oh yeah, with the Cleaver, you're just going to get shredded through pretty quickly, and even the squishier targets. I know that this is an anti-bruiser build, but you still do a nice amount of damage to Sir Victor whilst healing and keeping yourself alive for just such a ridiculous amount of time. Sure, Sir Victor made a little bit of a mistake early on fighting Influentic, but beyond that, I've been really impressed with the way he's been playing these team fights, and with the Baron spawning in about 40 seconds time, I don't know if you want to rush it as Fourth Wall, but they certainly have set themselves up a lot of vision in the area.
Yeah, that earlier blunder all but forgiven as Fourth Wall find themselves in a lovely mid-game position. As you said, Baron, coming up very, very shortly. We have got the Kraken Slayer on Pipe, so that could help with taking this Baron down in reasonable pace. But right now, I mean, we see Sir Victor towards the bot side of the Rift. No TP for a very long while. So I feel like Fourth Wall, that's not necessarily something that's really on their minds right now. I think it's a case of maintaining control, so 42 can't do anything. Oh man, because they're both 4.
It's really tricky.
It's really tricky. 42, make sure they can't step in and try anything tricky, because they do have a comp that does it pretty quickly.
You have to be really respectful of it. The second that I saw Iaga just down towards the bottom side of the map as the Baron spawning, I was like, oh, hang on, you maybe don't want to be there. Instead, it's all good in the end. Baron not going to be taken down. Tower does fall though. Toxie just in a really strong position as well. I think Toxie might have another item on base or close to it.
Not going to be far off at all. Did of course lose some of those Dark Seal stacks when they died at that Drake fight, but considering the state things are at currently, not going to be too upset about it.
No.
I don't necessarily think that Oriana's a champion you'd necessarily want to go Magi's on unless it is very, very obvious that you are in that sort of position. You know, like 5-0, one-shotting their front line, that sort of place.
Yeah, indeed, and I don't love this composition out of 42, and the further into this game we get, the more I'm a little bit worried about it, because you need the Varus to go on hit rather than poke. And so you don't have that long range engage and poke that I was expecting from this composition, but you have to do that because you've not got really enough sustained damage anywhere else. It's not like a Karma's going to be able to get through a tank. Karma can burst down a squishy maybe, but certainly is not a long-ranged tank killer. You have to have the on-hit on your Varus in order to get through the Gnar, the Maokai, the Nautilus. All of those are really tanky champions, and it just means that you don't have the ability to walk into these team fights as I was expecting. Whenever you see a Karma and Varus, you're like, oh, the poke is perfect, wonderful. You can step up to any of these team fights, but it's not really working out that way.
as we've seen in these last couple of fights, Baron is up, of course. Still not really a concern on either team's minds right now. What might be, though, is the next Drake coming up within a minute's time. We already see 42 starting to group up some members in the mid lane. Fourth wall doing likewise. Influentic, there is that recall. Wouldn't have been able to complete an item off of that back. It would be huge for this oncoming fight if they are able to. No. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
there we
There we
go.
go. Cosmic
Cosmic
Drive. Waited a second.
Yeah,
That will
slightly
TP onto the
worried.
mid lane. And all 10 members will again do the NA ram, the mid lane dance for the Prio ahead of the Drake.
See if the fight goes the exact same way. Watch these shockwaves. They've so far been really good from Toxie. Also, watch Chrissy. Does he get bursted down immediately, as we've seen in the previous couple of fights? Without Chrissy, a lot of the damage is just gone.
So 42 again start off the Drake. They do have what seems to be a good position as long as this front line can hold fast. In comes the ult, but it gets cancelled out. The Drake is secured by 42, but Savictor is making so much space in the back line. Warrior goes deep as well, but he is lit himself in a terrible position.
Shockwave
Ends up going down. The flash away from Chrissy to get away from the Gnar. Savictor will drop. The hook from Fabio will put himself in very deep water. It's a triple kill for the Varus as the chase down comes through. 42. They will relent. Pipey and Toxie able to flee away. The shockwave, as you say, was good, but not good enough.
No, the flash out of Chrissy was perfect, and that's the way that the on-hit Varus can really work. When you are able to buy that space, when these fights go longer, you can really ramp into it with the Rage Blade stacking and stacking. Now it's also that Ornn upgrade as well, so a really strong position. And if you take a look at Pippi, only 2 items. This Aphelios was allowed to sit and hit for quite a while, but a 2-item Aphelios just doesn't do the same amount as a 2-item Varus is able to do. That shockwave, it landed onto so many members, but the flash out of Chrissy just keeping him alive. And unfortunately, Warrior had gone in way too deep, so Victor wasn't able to find that big Gnar that he was really looking for when he jumped in. And I think that part of it was that Fourth Wall just walked into that fight a little bit too late. They've now given over the sole point to 42.
And 42, they're still a little bit behind in the gold, 2.5k. But, as I said, soul point in pocket. They now actually have the ability to threaten for the Baron. They have the vision control set up. There he is. Lagia and Vituso starting up. Chrissy can join in. Rexat and Influentic, all they need to do is play bodyguard as Warrior will drop the Nature's Grass. TP coming in from Savictor as well, who is currently in Gnar. How much time does he actually have here? It is ticking down pretty quickly, but Lagia has already died. The backline is standing fairly strong. Fabio might be in some trouble. Call the Forge God comes through. It lands onto 3, but it is a full retreat from 42 right now. Warrior dropping over. Chrissy has already died. Rexat comes over the wall, but there's no damage to follow up at all. Influentic going to try and fight off Savictor, but that's going to be a losing battle, and it's going to be a losing battle overall for 42. 4 drop, and it's Fourth Wall who find himself on the Baron.
Yeah, they're going to be able to head straight for this Baron. You've still got your jungler up and available. But Chuso is going to try to get in onto this one.
Though.
I don't think he can stop this.
Nope. I don't think it's enough, though. Pipey takes him down. The Baron denial is not going to happen. Fourth Wall, they pick up the Baron. Fabio has time to respawn after dying. It's a whole 5-man squad with the buff. And for a second, it looked like 42 were clawing their way back into the game, but Fourth Wall, they find it. They find the angle again. And it seems to really, 42's fights, they live and die on Chrissy.
Really do. Can Chrissy just sit and hit? And in that fight, the answer was an empirical no. At the same time, though, Lagia just got caught out of position. The shockwave only landed onto 1, but that 1 was the jungler. It's exactly who you want to be able to take out. Sure, Fabio dies, but you're in the backline. You're disrupting. You're stopping Chrissy from being able to sit there and just lay down the damage that this Varus wants to do. It's not poke, you can't sit even further back, you need to get up front, and if you end up with a Nautilus in your face, getting stunned up in that situation can be deadly. Had to turn and run. Really well played fight out of Fourth Wall. And 42, I think it was a bit of hubris right there to go for the Baron so brazenly in the faces of Fourth Wall.
It does feel like that is something they'll be reflecting on potentially after this game. So Victor is the one being engaged upon the entirety of 42 on the single Gnar. That felt a little bit personal as they do take him down, but at what cost, you have to think. Toxi pushing in the bot lane right now, pressuring onto the inhibitor turret. The 2 siege minions, they'll do a decent chunk of damage. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to take it down though.
No, and this is mid lane prior right here for 42. They're not going to be able to step up and actually take out this turret. They're still establishing a little bit of control right before this Drake spawns is pretty huge. Fourth will have massive Drake pit control around this one, which they need because it is 42 soul, and having a Hextech soul is potentially a way to be getting you back into this game. It's not the strongest, I don't think, at the moment, but it does give you a good amount of extra slow and damage, something that Chrissy could really use, and just overall, extra damage on 42's composition is so necessary. Like you said, live or die by how much Chrissy is able to do. Has completed that third item now, so is in a super strong position, but I think more importantly, Pippi has done the same.
Looking at Chrissy's flash cooldown, because that really could be the deal maker or breaker. 42 walking down the mid lane right now. It is completely dark in the river for them. The dragon has just spawned up. They are going to look to take this mid tier 1. Instead, they peel back. So Victor dropping a good chunk of damage now, though, onto Vatuso. The chain of corruption misses out of Chrissy, and Sir Victor feels perfectly free to chase. Rexat being caught out. Dredgeline going in onto Chrissy. The chase down not quite there, though. Cleanses away, is able to put some damage forwards, but Rexat is already dropped. Double kill picked up for Toxi, as Vatuso will drop as well. Influentic trying to get out, but that Karma ain't tanky. Now it's just Legia and Chrissy against the full fourth wall, and the chase down from Sir Victor just has to dodge away. The blight stacks not going to come through. Legia has to flash away. Sir Victor is playing right on the knife's edge of this Gnar, knows exactly where he can be, where he can afford to be. With all that pressure, all that damage, a mid-inhibitor turret dropped, fourth wall will peel back and take their second Drake.
This composition, it really just does not have any ways to get involved as 42. As soon as you get caught out by a Nautilus Hawk, even just the depth charge that you can't even dodge, you get taken down, and I think part of that is the fact that Legia really didn't find anything too much for him in the early game. Sure, managed to get what could have been a 3-4 quadrants start, but it wasn't enough, not finding enough ganks, and you're not going to be as useful as a Maokai is into these team fights in the late stages of the game, so you have to pop off early and completely take over the game. He's currently sat on 2 items. He's on the same amount of items, even less components than Warrior. Sure, they're more expensive items, but that's the point. Your build's more expensive. You have less utility. You have to get ahead early if you're going to pick this kind of risky champion. Unfortunately, the gear just didn't, and they're paying the price for it right now.
That they are gold lead has climbed up to 8k in favor of fourth wall. Baron, of course, has dropped off in the time since, but fourth wall diligently maintaining their vision control. Warrior, of course, with the saplings, going to be a big help in that as well. And it's now just time to start closing the noose. Like, close in, make it, just give there fewer and fewer areas of the map that 42 are comfortable being.
Absolutely, and now just really waiting for the Baron whilst trying to swallow up as much space as possible. Warrior and Sir Victor are going to be able to keep this turret alive. Fabiox is just sat in the wings. We could see a fight right here. Depends on if anybody really wants to go for it. Sir Victor does!
Rexat gets pulled back to tanky Leona. Might take a while to get through, but the rest of 42 needs to actually get there. Call the Fort God comes through. Rexat is alive for now, but Toxic being able to pick that one up. The Shockwave gets it. Legia and Influentic run away, but they leave the Varus to the wolves. The fourth wall is closing in. I don't know if they have what is left to survive. Warrior did drop, so the front line is slightly weaker, but the hook onto Influentic. The flash comes forward as well. TP coming out from Sir Victor also. Legia does a heroic last stand, but it's a last stand nonetheless. He will drop. The Nexus Towers will drop, and fourth wall will clearly continue to stamp their dominance on the NLC second division.
What a game that was. Both fourth wall and 42 going blow for blow during the early stages of the game, but there were some really iffy moments out of 42 in that game. That bot lane dive that immediately gives over some extra gold to Pippi and Fabiox, that's not a good way to start. We were speaking about how the jungle just didn't really get off of the ground despite a good clearing start coming out of Ligia, and top lane popping off. I love seeing the Gnar. Sometimes Gnar feels like a really boring top lane champion, but in Sir Victor's hands, he makes these big tanks seem flashy.
He loves playing on the edge. Such a fun such a fun player to watch, playing that champion. As I said, on the knife's edge in a lot of those fights, stepping forwards, even with full blight stacks on him. Just knowing that, I think my sidestepping is better than your ability to aim piercing arrow.
Yeah.
And that confidence really shone through that game. Fourth wall, they pick up another one. They go to 6-1 at the end. Oh no, hang on. I was going to say at the end of the first round robin, but there's 10 teams in this league.
Yes.
I'm thinking of different ones.
Yeah, we've still got a couple more to play. It's going to be a long split ahead of these teams still. But that being said, end of the first round robin or not, fourth wall, I think I can pretty confidently put them as our best team right now. That loss to Rich Gang getting even more head scratching the further and further we get along. Rich Gang clearly also stepping up as one of the better teams. That will be a really fun matchup to watch when we do get to the second round robin. I feel like I do also have to say the Toxic End was brilliant. I think it was deceptive. I'll be interested to look back at some of those stats on the Orianna, how much damage was dealt, because mid lane kind of feels a little bit like top lane used to be, where you don't really see any solo kills, you don't see that much flashy. They join up for the skirmishes, but other than that, you kind of just sat there until you do get to the team fights, and then at that point, you have to show up. Karma isn't the kind of champion who can all of a sudden show up, whereas Orianna, oof.
I mean, Toxic, we talked about it in game. Chill. 0 to 60 in half of a second, gets 3 kills, 8 Dark Seal stacks off of the Herald fight. And it's just like that you can become that powerful. I'm being told that we're talking for too long, so we will throw it away to a break. We will be coming back shortly with an interview. I'm being told it's Fabio coming in from Fourth Wall to chat with us, so stay tuned. We'll be back with that in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, for the interview. As promised, we have Fabio here from Fourth Wall. Hello, hello, welcome. Congrats on yet another win, of course, sitting nice and clear at the top of the standing, 6-1.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening.
So I want to start at the start, funnily enough, and a play that, you certainly were present for, the attempted dive from 42. I don't want to talk about the execution of it, because obviously we saw what happened, but I want to ask you how much you think that mattered in the grand scheme of the early game. Obviously, you guys picking up those kills, but the tempo wasn't very fast in the early game. How much do you think it actually mattered to you guys?
First of all, I want to say like a huge shout out to the 42 bot lane. It was the scariest enemy so far, I think, and we really struggled early in the bot lane. Like they had a very, very good bot lane early game. But I think the dive was very crucial to the game because we could kind of manage to play the lane again. And even though we had the map split early on, we just recovered from that kind of. And it was very unlucky for them because like if it goes through and we just lose a lot of CS there on Aphelios dying, then I think it's going to be such a rough start for us and so much rougher to like get to the game and play for the Herald and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with the Herald and the Grubs and the Drakes, there was a moment of time during the early stage of that game where 42 were actually able to pick up quite a lot of those objectives, and it felt like you guys were maybe stalling out a little bit. Is that something you were talking about, that you just wanted to let the game happen, you had good scaling? Or did you feel like the game was getting away from you a little bit? What was the conversation like?
Yeah, we for sure wanted to like look for power spikes and wait for like Aphelios scaling and stuff. And we just needed to find a good angle, and if we feel like we didn't have the right setup or it's kind of rushed, we don't want to walk blindly into them because their comp can really just poke us out, and then it's going to be a rough fight for us with our tools. So we felt like, just choosing the fights that we want to take and, calmly going for the stuff we want to go for is just better. And we actively talk about like, do we want to contest or do we just give it? And we felt very comfy with like giving 2 and 3 drakes or something, and then just start fighting it because they were hard contesting it, and so we could get gold on the other side of the map. Yeah.
Perfect. And it's good to hear that you guys are really thinking through all of those things. Stepping away from this matchup specifically, how are you feeling about your lane? How is support at the moment? Obviously, support and bot lane go hand in hand. You guys were on the Nautilus this time around. We've seen a lot more enchanters than engaged supports recently. So do you feel like support's in a good spot, or would you like to see things change a little bit?
I like it way more than it was like last season. Last season, I felt like everybody was just blindly picking engaged supports and stuff. And I'm personally not a huge fan of it, even though it looks different because of the stuff I pick, But I feel like it's very good for support role if there's more variety, and especially enchanters getting picked up again is a very good sign because it shows people are developing strategies and stuff that like they really think it through. So I think for support role, it's very good if there's a variety of champs like range champs, mages, enchanters, and the engaged supports obviously shouldn't be missed. But yeah, I think it's support has more map impact right now and is more like dependent on the map than in the lane as it was last season. But I think it's good if there's a lot of variety. Yeah.
Speaking of variety, Fabio, is there anything that, I mean, no spoilers, obviously, but are you cooking anything particularly in the support role right now? Do you have anything, can you maybe say that you've got anything in the book?
I mean, I can say, we for sure showed a lot of different compositions so far in our officials. So of course we have some stuff cooked. And
away, ready for playoffs.
Yeah. As long as it goes, we feel quite confident to go with the stuff that works. We just go like, of course I have some stuff cooked, but why show it already, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic to hear from you then, Fabio. Any last shout outs you want to make to anyone in your team, anyone in the audience before we send you off?
I just want to shout out like every team, especially 42. Like there are a lot of friends that play there. I think their bot lane is very good. Like it was very impressive how they played the early game, and the dive was just unlucky. They should, keep going, keep their heads up. And also G2Hell had kind of a rough start, but I hope they can recover because like we also scrimped against them, and they are a good team. So I think they just have to find the switch, and yeah, then they can recover from that stuff that's going on right now.
Great to hear. Thank you again, Fabio, for coming for the interview. We're going to throw it for another break before we come back with our final game of the day. It's going to be Carolina going up against... Why have I lost this? Unique. We'll be back after this. Welcome back, everybody, ahead of the final game of the day. We've got Unique going up against Carolina. Well, Max, we had a upper table clash in our first game there, just gone past. Now we've got a lower table one. How are you feeling about the situations our teams are in right now?
Yeah, these teams both have had a little bit of a rough start, but things seem to be on the upswing right now for Unique. They've just won a couple of games. What was it, versus Rich Gang and 42 that they've just beaten? No mean feat right there. That's really impressive company to have beaten on back-to-back weeks as well. You can really look past 3 losses if they're the first 3 games. This is the way of League of Legends at the moment. You don't keep rosters for long periods of time. You are throwing players together all the time. It can take a little while for you to get your feet underneath you and to actually figure out a way to play. And if Unique really have turned it around, they could become quite a scary threat. Carolina, it just doesn't seem to be working, does it?
No, they've had a couple of good moments. Obviously, they've picked up 1 win thus far. But as you say, nothing is really fully clicking as of yet. As you said, Unique, it just seems like they learned how to team fight well, and that's carried them to their first couple of wins, as you said, against strong teams in their own right, with Rich Gang and 42 Gaming. So, in theory at least, with the caliber of the enemies Unique has just defeated, unless Carolina has really solved their problems, then we should be looking, of course, to a Unique favored game.
Sorry, I love those bans out of Unique. I think taking Brand and Lilia out of the game makes the game much more interesting. Karma too. I think that she's good for the game because I love a lot of different
just get in the comments. Bloxer clearly hates AP junglers.
I love AP junglers. I hate Lilia with a burning passion. But anyway, unimportant. That's an Udyr. That's an Udyr straight up locked in first pick.
I mean,
you expect that to be
Synapse.
top lane. Yeah, he loves that pickup.
Synapse coming straight out of the UKEL onto second division, and man's ready to do crazy things.
Yeah.
Was doing the Udyr all day long, and Zac, something that of course would be thought as crazy a couple of weeks ago, but we've seen it come in as a strong top laner in its own right. And don't forget, it can also jungle too.
Yes, shocking revelations, but Zac can be a jungler as well. I really like the Zac into highly aggressive junglers. I think it's best into things like the Lee Sin, the Viego, because counter jungling is one of Zac's absolute best strengths, and whenever you can counter jungle onto a really aggressive jungler, you can disrupt those early plays really effectively. I think that that's where Zac's at his absolute best. Even if you are into a tank v tank matchup, though, Zac just survives for so long. If you compare it up alongside something really tanky in the top lane, like a potential Cassante, you end up with a front line that just does not die. Unique, though, they've drafted themselves a really aggressive bot lane. Xayah does struggle a little bit into poke and long-range comps. Varus can be that, but we're seeing a lot more of the on-hit, like we did last game, just overall, than the poke Varus, so that bot lane is becoming a lot more of a priority.
Yeah, and so if Unique pick a tanky jungler as well, you're kind of forcing the Varus to go towards the on-hit, as you were saying, which takes a little bit of the heat off of the Xayah. Lovers Duo as well is going to, help that a decent amount. Final pick for Drazenko in the first rotation, going to be the Alistar. So we see Varus, a stylistic counter to Xayah, Alistar, a stylistic counter to Rakan. Pretty standard.
Yep, adding more
coming through
tanks.
on the second rotation, though. Not quite so standard. Silas gone. Darius gone. I mean, it's Starduster. We do have to, respect that.
Yeah, it's Starduster. As much as Zac top is good, it's not exactly his playstyle, let's say. Starduster likes to get a little bit more hyphy with these plays, but sometimes you do see when teams are struggling, as Carolina are, they can begin to retreat back into their shells, and I think the first place you see that is when a top laner who is known for really aggressive picks starts getting given Ornn duty, starts getting given Maokai's, things like that, where clearly they're like, something's not working top lane, you just have to play standard. I don't always think that that's necessarily the best decision to make, to put your standout performer into a small box, but
If you haven't seen the UKEL, you won't get this, but Lars. Fiora one trick.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of his team's wins came off the back off of his Fiora.
Yeah.
Whenever we saw him on duty, it was a completely different player.
it's not worth it if you do have that kind of performer. So I would like to see Starduster on something a little bit more aggressive. Don't shy away from what makes you as an individual good because your team is struggling. I think the Akali fits that perfectly. You need something that is aggressive, plenty of AP damage you can get from it as well, balancing out that Varus quite effectively, and also buying Varus space simply because you can't just sit and hit against the Varus when you've got an Akali into your backline. Xayah obviously has the ult, he does have the Rakan around to try to keep her alive, but if you're having to blow that ult immediately onto an Akali coming into the backline, then you won't have it for the Zac, for the Alistar, who can get into your face as well. Not to mention, Chains of Corruption, always a long-range threat too. Ahri, I like it into this composition with a lot of movement around. We'll have to see. It could technically still be an Udyr into the jungle, but obviously it's a lot more of a top lane pickup at the moment. Likes to do crazy shenanigans where it sits between the tier 1 and 2 tower, proxies. I've seen a lot of bad Udyr play, but Synapse, we've known him for a very long time. In case you don't know Synapse, often he goes by Synapse Sprinter, and it feels like a good part of his name. It's a shame to not have it in his name because he loves to play aggressive. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love his playstyle. I'm going to have the Sejuani to round it out. This is a very standard composition, I'd say, for the current meta. See what K5 wants to finish things out. They are still in need of either a top laner or a jungler.
Yeah, I like to see the Ahri, by the way, coming out from KVW. We see the Sylas, we see the LeBlanc taken away. What's the third in sort of the trifecta of the more proactive mid lane engagey champions? It's Ahri. And that's a Kindred.
That's a Kindred.
So, I mean, I want to point out, Zac top, you might not think it's super aggressive, but you can play it a little bit more hyphy, as you say. And worst case, Starduster does have to, rein himself in a little bit this game, but the rest of K5's comp is looking down to Clown, and I'm all here for it.
Really down to Clown. I mean, whenever you've got a Kindred, it just gets you a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card. Obviously, it can turn into a bit of a trap card where you accidentally keep the other team's Xayah alive, then she flashes away, lands feathers onto everybody. I've seen some nightmares with Kindred ultis, but used effectively can be so strong, but whenever there's a Kindred in the game, it just immediately changes the landscape of the game. Where does that initial mark spawn, and how many marks can this Kindred get? Because if you fall behind on this Kindred, you are, I think, less useful than a caster minion. I've seen Kindreds who fall behind on marks and just give nothing to your team, whereas a Sejuani is always tanky, always has a ton of CC, and a Glacial Prism from downtown onto a key carry, like, I don't know, an immobile Varus, can just change the landscape of a game. But if you get ahead on the Kindred, you don't want to step anywhere near it.
No, absolutely not. And they've got a good enough front line with Starduster and Drazenko to make it so I don't feel worried about the existence of the Kindred in this game.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you pick a carry jungler and suddenly your front line is severely lacking. Not so in this case.
No, you've got a situation where you've got plenty of tanky champions, and with the way that the support items and just items in general are at the moment, there's a lot of pretty cheap items actually that supports can build towards to get them to where, you're not sat in the days of old where your support has their warding item and some components. That's not really where tank supports are at the moment, and Alistar can be a really effective tank support.
I still remember, and this is somewhat tangential, back in Season 2, where I used to play Skarner Jungle, building Philosopher's Stone and Heart of Gold as GP10 items as a jungler, and it felt so good. Because you know what those items built into back in the day?
What?
Shirelias and Randuins.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It was fantastic. What are you talking about? These damn kids don't know what they're talking about.
Skarner moving at a million miles an hour.
Oh, yes. And you aren't moving anywhere near him either.
Nope.
As we are getting onto the Rift for our final game of the day, Unique, see if they can continue their current run of form, climbing their way back up the league. Carolina, of course, have had their demons. We'll see if they can face them and try and mount their own charge up the standings. Are you expecting anything in the super early game here, Max, or is it so standard.
I don't think you want to get too aggressive when you're on the Kindred side specifically. As Afrosh, you are more looking to just roll the cosmic dice, end up on the same side of the map as that first mark spawns. It's really important. Beyond that, invades later on in the game to be able to pick yourself up all of those marks. That's where it's at. You don't really want to get too aggressive early on, especially not into a composition that has any melee champions and a Sejuani. It's a recipe for disaster. A late invade, if you know that nobody's around, could potentially happen, as we saw in the previous game. But overall, I think that the at least first couple of minutes shouldn't look too insane. That being said, Crimson might have to flash.
Find Crimson in the jungle.
Yeah.
Drazenko is miles away, and that's a flash gone already off of the Varus.
Yeah, I would not have expected that. I can understand stepping up there as Holmberg and Kansuke, like, that's a really good play, but as Crimson, you can't just be sat there. There is a brush in the middle of that lane now that means you can't just sit and be overly aggressive in that situation. Otherwise, exactly what we just saw ends up happening. Crimson knows what's up right now. Fool me once, but Crimson knows that there's going to be a threat here. Synapse going straight in. I love this.
And this is what we see the Udyr do sometimes. He's just being a bit cheeky, and he's having to burn the Ghost super early, but it slows down Afrosh's start with Gallop already onto the camps, and a lot of extra damage being taken on the Kindred clear might leave her vulnerable to Sejuani potentially wanting to get a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, just pushing this Kindred back, delaying those camp takes is so important because you are rolling the dice. You are looking to get those initial marks. You fall behind on marks. Not even you fall behind on kills as it is with most other junglers. You fall behind on marks, and that's the way you become useless as a Kindred. So being delayed in your clear, even by a little bit, as you get from Synapse going on that invade, is huge. Now, just going to beat Starduster down as well, and Synapse showing that the early power of this Udyr is huge, and it really is. You are an incredibly strong brawler, 1v1, 2v2 champion as the Udyr early. It's only once we get later and later into the game where this Zac gets tanky enough to be a complete nightmare to deal with.
Oh. Synapse really is trying to make his mark on this early, I was going to say early lane, but just game in general. You can already see that Gallop is just a full camp up on towards Afrosh at this point, just because of that Udyr stepping into the jungle.
It's a little thing, but it could have wide-ranging consequences in this game. Just getting a little bit further ahead, because Sejuani does not have the fastest of early clears, but neither does Afrosh. You can match pretty much evenly, so being put behind, we'll see what this means when the Scuttlecrab spawns. You do have full push in the mid lane out of KVW, whereas bot lane is a lot more back and forth so far, although Holmberg and Kanji has had a pretty good time so far. Blowing the flash on that Varus during the early stages of the game means that you are pretty vulnerable. I've just noticed, though, that it is not... I think this might end up being a poke Varus. With the Hail of Blades.
So I did want to talk about it. We see the Hail of Blades. Since there's a Kindred in the game, you don't necessarily need to be on hit as much.
No, you can be that poke version, and I think that the poke version is more useful for overall team compositions. Obviously, in a lot of situations, you have got to get yourself just some level of overall damage, so it makes sense, but... Oh, hang on, bot lane. Gallop gets it, it wasn't the one.
Is the one who gets it.
Gallop's getting both.
Cosmic Die on the wrong side, and Afrosh is going to miss out on both Scuttles and his first mark.
This is huge. We said that there could be wide-ranging consequences of Synapse going into the jungle and just delaying Afrosh, and getting double scuttled is massive. Not only are you missing out on the gold and the experience that these scuttle grabs bring, but obviously the mark as well. You're just delayed in terms of your early clears. And look where Synapse is. Synapse is potentially looking to harass again around this Krug camp. At least going to get vision, now spots out Afrosh. No potential ganks happening because Synapse is aware of what's going on. Even if they're not able to go into the jungle and get on top of them, still tracking this jungler around really good. Unique, they are not showing like a bottom tier team right now.
I mean, we said that they're on the up and up right now, also it would seem. And with the illegal tech that we have seen coming out. Ooh, good charm lands. KVW is building a little bit of a CS lead. Obviously, range versus melee matchup, that will happen. Wantage doing fine for himself for the most part. Probably will need to take a free call before too long. Drazenko, though, looking in towards the bot side, going to get knocked up in trade. The pullback does not come through as Afrosh looking to influence the top side already. Only gets the one grub right now. but seems to know that Gallop is towards the bottom side of the map, so can go back at his own leisure.
Yeah, just a bit odd to not try to fully take them. I can understand being a little bit nervous about where KVW is potentially, and having Synapse in the area has clearly already been a little bit of a problem, but you are just a bit delayed. Jumping back onto these should be able to pick up all of these, but I think delay is the name of the game right now. Afrosh is just behind the tempo right now, not something that you want to be getting done as a Kindred. Gallop, really happy with the way that things have been going, has got a pretty good lead at the moment, and has yet to go back to base. Gonna take out that set of chickens as well, and then recall, so gonna be going to back to base with a huge amount of gold. If we could see the gold quickly, it'd be interesting how we're looking. Yeah, just got, it's not huge, but still, this early on, as a Sejuani, you expect to fall behind a little bit to a more aggressive champion that is the Kindred.
You do, but thankfully the scaling on Kindred is, you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty alright as you get later into the game. So I think he's in no Afresh to get relevant in this game.
Leave. Go.
Never. You knew what you signed up for. You all knew.
I've missed you. I hate it, but I've missed you.
Missed you too, bud. As we continue through the early game. So, we see the first recalls coming through. It is going to be the Poke Varus coming out from Crimson. We've got the Serrated Dirk all but confirms it. Holmberg and Concha are, however, a little bit slower. We see the early pickup of a Cole for Holmberg, so much more caring about the scaling part. Zenko manages to land a knockup onto 3. Afresh is on the way in. Gallop dropping quite low. Feathers pulled back. It's not going to do a great deal. And it's a whole bunch of nothing. It's just the Ignite out of Kamcha.
Yeah, only one little Summoner spell gone, and it's the one that comes back up as quickly as possible, so I'm just going to be too mad about the way that this one worked out. You can see KVW has wandered down, was potentially looking to get involved if things continued. Instead, nothing too much has happened, and we really haven't spoken about these mid laners yet, because mid lane just... Oh, bot.
I mean, we haven't had time to, it seems. Flash out from Drazenko. Will be able to survive this one. And a parting arrow onto Kansha. Drops him very, very low, but will be able to survive that.
Yeah, everybody just about going to be able to limp away. Tails between some legs. Afresh is back. Synapse also wailing onto Starduster, but that's not really going to end in anything too much. Junglers have now both left, gone back to base. But Kansha is really low, is not in a particularly good spot right now. Getting caught out by a combo would spell almost certain death.
Synapse taking a big chunk off of Starduster there. Was...
Doesn't care.
Yeah, I mean, already has picked up... Okay, love this very early pickup. Oblivion Orb. The whole reason Zac is so good in this top lane is because you are getting the healing from your blobs.
Yes.
Cut that down by 40%.
Yeah, immediately get rid of that. And it's not going towards picking yourself up any of the Thormail items where you have to be hit first. You can apply that yourself as Synapse. You can apply that with pretty much anything that you're laying down as well. I really like this pickup, and it just stops Starbuster from being able to do really anything in this matchup. That even in farm, it's not like there is a massive canyon in the top lane, not in the same way that the CS lead really is favoring onto KVW in this mid lane versus Wantage, but still, you're just getting shut out more and more in this top lane. That's what you need to do as the UD. You're not going to be as useful later on into the game. Starduster, he's so low, he's going to get his passive popped if he's not careful.
So we did actually see that, but Synapse did a very sneaky thing there, where he stepped back as though he was going to be recalling, and instead looped back into the brush, and so was able to get into the face of Starduster without him realizing.
Oh,
Gets
no.
a huge trade, will force the Zac back. Synapse! I mean, that's one way of doing it, I suppose.
It's a little bit faster than a quick recall at this point in the game. Yeah, recall's 8 seconds. This is 20.
24-second death timer?
Hang on, Crimson's...
Crimson is, yeah,
no flash.
Not happy times.
Nope.
First blood will be secured by Holmberg.
Oh man, and having those flashes blown multiple times, not really being able to play around with it. Drazenko, really good dodge to get away from that charm. Should be able to just walk this one out now. Unique still going for it.
Drazenko will just about survive that. But I think KVW could have been perhaps a little bit more judicious holding on to the charm there. But They are still holding the advantage. Unique, about 1.5k in the advantage. Second Drake about to spawn as well, and Gallop is well positioned to take it. Does, however, mean 5 grubs, and that will be 6.
Oh, that's a risk.
Serious tower pushing power for K5.
Yeah, once you get onto these towers, it's going to be absolutely insane. There isn't really a big split push champion on their comp, so it's not like you're completely giving up right now as Unique. Still, you never really want to be giving over all 6 of those grubs. Picking themselves up a second Drake right now, we'll really have to see what this Drake is going to be, what the soul is going to be, because that could really dictate if this is a good decision or a bad one. See what it is going to be.
It's not happy times.
Cloud.
It is not happy times for this Zach.
It's Cloud.
That's really good for Synapse.
It is really good for Synapse, and
KVW.
actually, overall, I think this is good for a lot of the members of Unique, but it's always quite funny when you're like, oh, let's see what the soul's gonna be. It's Cloud.
I don't... you know what? I will not stand for this. Cloud...
I just said it's
Cloud
good.
Yeah. The fact that everyone's so disappointed to see Cloud, I guess it's not the most interesting soul out there, but it's useful for everyone, and it's really, really, really oppressive for some.
Yeah, when you've got an Udyr that just wants to run at you constantly, having those speed ups, having that extra movement speed is going to be huge. And the fact that you've already got
The
2
Phoenix.
Drakes for yourself.
Awakened Phoenix.
No.
That's the only 2 words I've got for you. Awakened Phoenix with Cloud Soul. How are you getting away from that?
You're not. You just don't. You...
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah,
12
you
minutes
just
on the
don't.
board. We are indeed. As it onto the Cloud Rift. We're checking out our situation. Afresh has found
they can go
Synapse,
for this.
but I mean, Lamb's Respite comes out very, very early. The chase down is here. Wantage going to drop the damage down onto Synapse, and Synapse will fall. KBW trying to get out, but Wantage will chase down, and that's an instant double kill for the Akali.
And this is how mid lane works at the moment. You do nothing for the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, but at some point a skirmish happens that you just get dragged away from your midway 4, and then the Akali gets 2 kills. After a very calm early game, that just sucks so bad, and I think that's a real misread out of Unique. You are in a strong position, sure, individually in these lanes, but it's a Kindred, and you know that you do not have Gallop anywhere nearby. It's going to end up being a 3v2. And you can't get that initial burst kill to turn it into a 2v2 because it's a Kindred. You've got that Lamb's Respite to keep you alive for longer, giving over 2 kills to the Akali. All of a sudden, there's now a Storm Surge completed, and Wantage, having had a very chill early game, becomes a sudden massive threat for both KVW and Holmberg.
Afresh doing his best impression of Rorschach there. Like, you're not trapped. I'm not trapped in here with you. I mean,
Yeah.
that is pretty much Lamb's Respite. When Lamb's Respite is used correctly, that is basically what that ability reads.
Yes, absolutely it does. You just trap somebody in. You can't leave either because you don't want to step outside of that unkillable section. Then you're just giving over a kill to the other team too. So, yeah, it definitely is one of those where you have to just stand there, brawl it out. Afrosh going to be pretty happy with that after what was a little bit of an iffy, perhaps, early game. Nothing bad necessarily, just got put up behind a little bit by Synapse at getting into the jungle. We do have the Herald spawned up and available right now. Synapse has got good push, so we'll be able to move first. And it looks like the rest of K5, not interested, just going to concede onto this one.
Speaking of Afresh, can we have a double check? Have they actually picked up any stacks as of yet?
They must have
I'm
picked
not-
up, like,
One.
one,
One
right?
stack thus far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1 stack. I was going to say, they've surely picked up 1 at this point. Still, you're looking for 4 to get that initial upgrade, aren't you? And so you are pretty far behind that curve, I'd say.
Yeah, really going to need to find some more good skirmishes. Currently, we see the mark has been placed onto KVW, who is presently chilling out in the bot lane. Not really going to be the most easily targeted champion. Stardust looking to find some damage in onto Gallop here, but feels like is lacking in support. That said, support is very much on its way. Afresh Crimson, they looked for it, but Unique had vacated the area pretty swiftly by the time they were looking for the engage.
And nothing too much gonna happen in the end. It is just gonna be a trade of camps, and that is going to be a second mark right here for Afrosh, picking up onto these chickens. Not the ideal trade, I'd say. Still, you managed to pick up an enemy red buff. Always going to be helpful. Synapse actually gets the remnant of that one, so it's going to be in a very strong position once again. Synapse, no teleport. Starduster, no teleport. So with this next Drake spawning in the next minute or so, we are going to see a big fight around this that top laners are just going to have to sprint to if they want to get involved.
Synapse has already taken down the tier 1 turret in top lane as well, though. First turret secured, and the gold lead does reflect that pretty well. Unique still up by around 2.5k. As you said, 15 seconds until Drake, and that is a very, very dark river. Nobody has any vision control in there, so starting it off blind, or starting it off without properly establishing vision first, could be a very dangerous prospect.
Yeah, you don't want to step up into that one and just get immediately bursted down. There is plenty of damage to be able to, you know, pick off whoever steps up into the brush. We are seeing both of these top laners head down. Starduster has arrived first, though. Synapse going to join up with the rest of his team, so we're going to see a 5v... Oh, no, he hasn't. I thought he joined.
He took Scuttle.
Do you just concede, then? You have to just concede this one, right?
Pull the trigger here, yeah.
Yeah, just go mid, pick yourself up to turret.
As you're saying, Starduster may look to come in on this one. Decides against it, in fact. The turret will be secured by Unique. If they can continue this push, this could be very, very good for them. Starduster is looking for the angle in. Can't find the engage. However, there is the engage from Guzenko, though. Damage
they got Crimson!
Crimson dropping low. The chase down still coming through. Gallop is able to find him, but Afresh is there with the Lamb's Respite. Flashed out over the wall. Crimson is left. Will be Unique in that he died in that fight. Drake gets secured, but Unique still have the pressure, still have the push. They should be able to take this tier 2 as well.
And that's the joys of picking up those first 2 Drakes, is you really don't care about giving over this third one. It's your enemies first. They're only going to get 1 if you can play this one out correctly. And in response, you managed to pick up yourself 2 turrets and a kill. Absolutely huge. Blew a ton of flashes as well. That is now a no flash, no cleanse Crimson, and a no flash onto Afrush too. Those are some main carries that are now a lot more vulnerable than they would have been prior to this fight. If you get bot lane turret as well, this is an absolute steal right now. Unique have come away with a king's ransom.
4 turrets now in the column for them. Guzenko looking to find Synapse. I'm not entirely sure what he was planning to do there. No support anywhere nearby. And yeah, the kills right now definitely do no justice to how well Unique has been playing the macro of this early game. They are holding up towards a nearly 5k lead, 4.5 right now. And the map is very much theirs.
Really is. They're just in a really strong position overall. This has been... Hang on.
Share. Be careful though.
TPs.
The angle in the TP.
And pullback though.
Druzenko has already dropped the chase down. Kansha flashes away, but Unique is there to collapse. Afrush gets deleted. The flash in from Wantage is able to do well. Takes down Holmberg, but it's only going to be the one secured. Trying to get out and away now. KBW takes down Crimson, and it will be the damage dropping. Synapse will burn it down. Frostbite for the Akali. And despair for K5 as they lose another fight. It looks good at first as Kansha steps in, seemingly completely unaware of what was going on, but disengages fantastically, and the follow-up from Unique was almost instant.
Yeah, the follow-up was really fast. I like the way that Unique are playing this one, and also it's a Rakan that you're trying to catch on. That is one of the most mobile champions in the entire game, but that whole fight, I was just watching Holmberg, I was like, those feathers, oh no, and then as soon as the pullback comes through, you just get shredded as Druzenko, and that's not a squishy Mukau. Just got murdered pretty much immediately, and then the follow-up was brilliant. Wantage into the backline, though, does pick up a kill onto both Holmberg and Kanshke, so you're in a pretty good position there. But really, you just have to play around your Akali right now. It is all in on Wantage being able to carry, and it's pretty tricky because it's a Xayah with an ulti that can just give you a get out of jail free card. It's an Ahri who's got 3 dashes to try to get away. It's not a easy game for Wantage to be able to play this one out, but still, 4-1. Storm Surge completed, well on the way to that next item too. The Akali's not in a bad spot to try to put the team on his back.
Absolutely not. And Afrush has picked up a couple more marks in the past few minutes. I'm still not sure if they're at that critical 4 point yet. But if so, then maybe Carolina can be a little bit better situated in these future fights. Obviously, Soul Point never got picked up by by Unique. I'm looking at KVW there. And so they have bought themselves some more time.
Yeah, they need to just keep buying time. You've got a ton of stacking of late game presence, and your team just gets stronger and stronger. Synapse, surrounded by 3, has Gallop potentially, but it is just speedy. I mean, not quite as speedy as the old version. Crimson needs to be careful. No flash.
Oh, cleanse. Yes. Did it matter? Not at all.
Not even
going
slightly.
to try and make his way out of here as well. Is able to make it through the base gates, the permafrost from Gallop. Not able to find its mark, but they can rotate this towards the top lane. As KVW currently shoving it in. Wantage is there to try and stop it. Has just finished the Lich Bane as well.
It's now the second game where I'm seeing a Varus, and this one's poked, so gets to play even further back, just get jumped on constantly. Nice Charm gets a good chunk of damage onto Wantage. You are going to be able to keep this tower alive for at least another couple of waves as K5, but Synapse in between the tier 2 and 3 right now, just running around, doesn't really care. Another good charm onto Wantage. Jeez.
KVW seems to have Wantage's number for the most part in these fights. As you continue the pressure, they will relent for now. The wave not present. But I mean, Drake coming up in 5 seconds time, and Carol and Erna are in no position to fight it.
Yeah, you just have to find something right now. Maybe you call a snap decision onto the Baron, but at the same time, that's such a risk, and your team does not do it that quickly. The one thing... Starduster. He's got the jump.
They weren't going for the Drake, my boy. They're looking for you instead. Nope. The pullback from Holmberg. It'll be easy as that to secure the kill. KVW is the target for Carol and Erna, but they are not able to find him, and with another tier 2 turret dropping off of the rift, they can then pull back towards the Drake. With the top laner down for 30 seconds, K5, they're in no state to look for Baron.
Synapse, it's just doing whatever
he's just shoving Synapse in. They realize that K5 cannot in any way contest, so they just send Holmberg to do the Drake.
We've seen a lot of Udyrs do nothing. This is the exact opposite right now. Synapse is showing us an absolute masterclass of the way to just be annoying on this champion. Use the amount of damage you can put down with the Liandries and the Swifties, and just run around. You don't actually need to engage anybody in fights. You're not really looking to pick up kills in these situations. You're just trying to be the single most annoying champion you possibly can be right now, and disrupt. Stop any of the nice clean plays that K5 want to put down. Let the rest of your team have enough space and not get overwhelmed by too many champions to play around. If you're just constantly pushing on this bot lane, it's kind of the best that you can do. Plus, teleport to go get involved, because when you do get into these big team fights, because of the AoE that this new Udyr has, you can deal so much damage when it feels like you're not really doing anything at all.
Absolutely. And Synapse, as you said, doing fantastically in this game. And it all started from literally minute 1, or minute 2 if you want to be really pedantic about it. Steps into the jungle, slows Afrush's early clear, gives Gallop the ability to double scuttle, really cements the early game presence for Unique. And from here on out has been, as I said, on the side lane, been annoying, been pushing down turrets, has been a real thorn in the side of Carol and Erna. And that's not looking to change anytime soon. Afrush has got the Kraken Slayer, but really needs to complete a second item before they can really deal damage to this Udyr.
Yeah, you're not in a position to really be able to take them out. And Kindred, yeah, sure, you have a lot of sustained damage, but also it's very short range. Even with that 4th stack of the markers.
Coming in, flash from Afrush. If a charm can land.
Oh, the charm!
Wantage, not Afrush. There is the Lamb's Respite as well. Brzenko trying to come in and do something. Manages to find a knock-up onto 3, but Afrush is down. Wantage is able to get out. The chase down will instead turn towards the cow. And it's burgers tonight for Unique as they will peel on back. They will take the last piece of standing gold outside of the Carol and Erna base as Synapse is knocking on the door as well.
Kanisha in that fight was really on it, landing a lot of charms with the ults as well as a couple of those grand entrances. Now they're going to turn straight onto the Baron right now. You will get a response, Crimson is in the area, but with Afrush dead for the next 10 seconds, there's not really any response that you can do. Maybe try for a miracle steal. Everybody is just going to walk away, and Unique stranglehold on this game continues. 2 minutes, 30 seconds until the Soul pops up. Cloud Soul would be huge, especially for Synapse, as you were highlighting earlier. But just look at the vision around this Baron. They knew exactly where everybody was, and Unique knew that they could go for that fight, try to get onto Afrosh. They tried early on in the game and got bitten by the fact that they just couldn't kill Afrosh quick enough with that Lamb's Respite. But at this point, with the lead that they have, they're up by almost 10,000 gold. I think they're 11,000 gold at this point. Not sure what it was at the point of that fight, though. And you can just sit there and keep wailing on the Kindred until the point at which that Lamb's Respite ends, pick up that kill, get yourself another, and turn it into a very easy Baron.
And that they have Unique now with those 3 minutes of additional pressure. I love how the traditional statement was that first Baron breaks tier 2s, second Baron breaks the base. Well, they took the Baron and there was no tier 2s to take.
Yes. Yeah, they're in a situation where they really want to be breaking the base right now. It is pretty tricky. There's a lot of wave clear right now. You might potentially just want to be looking for an engage mid lane. Something's happening.
The mid lane here. Synapse on the side lane. KVW coming in as well. Kansha being able to just play in a way that forces K5 to stay back. They have to stay at arm's length. Kuzenko tries to go in, will not find anything. Crimson does not get stunned up, but KVW looking forwards, the jump forward as well. Kansha drops the ignite. That's a double kill for the Rakan. Wantage flashing back towards his Nexus, and the Baron will help them break open the base. That's one inhib down. Second will come down in the bot lane as well. It's Afrosh and Wantage against the world. There's a Lamb's Respite that might be able to do something, but the towers are dropping. You can't Lamb's Respite those. Wantage trying to find the back line, but Holmberg will shut him down with the exhaust. The Nexus is being targeted. It's all Flare at this point for some extra kills, and Unique will continue their rampage back up the standings as they even out their record at 3-3.
Damn. I'm really, really impressed with Unique. I've watched a lot of these Div 2 squads, and the ones that make me go, ooh, is like, obviously, there's a lot of the teams at the top, Rich Gang, Fourth Wall, even 42 to a certain extent, but like, Unique give me that feeling. They have that feeling about them where like, every single member there was ticking over. Synapse wasn't getting 1,000,001 kills, but he was doing his job the entire time. The Xayah wasn't exactly getting aggressive in the 2v2 bot lane, but the second we got to these fights, was doing everything that you needed to do. Same thing with the Ahri, and I think the most impressive was Gallop. 0 deaths on that Sejuani, but so proactive, getting things done the entire time.
Yeah, I said in the pre-show that Unique had learned to teamfight, and that wasn't even it that game.
No.
That was really concise, clear macro strategies. Like, just that choice to send Synapse into the jungle at level 1. I was like, okay, I'm going to burn my Ghost, but I don't think I'm going to get ganked in the early levels. I don't think I'm under any real threat in the early levels. Slows down the Kindred start, allows for so much freedom in the Unique early game. And when they started building up the tempo, it very much was that snowball effect. Started very slowly at first, but it built up, and built up until it reached a point that Carolina could not deal with it.
Yeah, and the reason I just gave a little grin there was I saw in our chat that we are getting Synapse Sprinter, Synapse, as our interview, which obviously as UK casters, that makes us very excited. We've been watching this guy play for a very long time, but also I want to ask about that early game tactic, about the entire tactics of the game, because if that was all planned, then I have really high hopes for the way that this team can communicate ideas effectively and then put them into action, because that was a dismantling, sure, of one of the bottom tier teams that we have at the moment, but it's not like it's a bad org. K5 has been around for a very long time. A lot of these players we've been seeing about the league for a while too. It's not like these are bad players, and to dismantle them in that way, it only felt like Wantage was able to get things done.
It was once that train started going, it felt like Wantage had some bright moments, but yeah, it was all Unique for the rest of the game. We are going to take a moment, as I said, very excited to have an interview with Synapse Sprinter. We'll get that set up as quickly as possible. We'll be back in a few with that before closing out the day. Don't miss it though. Synapse is always a fun one to have on. And here we are again, guys. We do, in fact, have the one, the only, our UK friend. It's Synapse of Unique. Welcome in. Hey. Congrats on the win. And Unique's, I was going to say miracle, but no, we have seen the turnaround of this team just this week, these last few games, compared to your first 3. But I do want to hearken in, because you yourself had a very, very good game on that Udyr. And I need to know more about that level 1.
Yeah, no, it's a fun little strat, you know. It's the Udyr special, right? Like, you win lane so hard, you don't need Ghost for the first like 5 minutes, so why not blow it on the jungler? You know, force them to delay their camps, and then it let Gallop get the double scuttle. So I'd like to think it worked out. Missed a melee minion for it though, so could have been better. I was a little slow in the rotate, but
No, it was
Worked
excellent.
out, it
And
seems.
yeah, if it works, it works. But it's good to see that you want to optimize it to the point where you don't miss that one melee minion. Yeah, get it absolutely perfect. Is that something that you would look to do on all junglers, or is that especially effective into the Kindred, do you think?
I was kind of worried about Kindred. I mean, you saw at the end, right? It costs like half my HP. A lot of junglers. I think the best example is Brand, when Brand was popping up everywhere. Like, any top laner, you could just run at him level 1, and like, what's he gonna do? Throw Q at you and auto you? It's like, so no, it's. I was sort of. It was a bit of a guess going in, but it's like, that's a level 1 Kindred. What's she gonna do? Like, worst case scenario is what happened. I lose like 300 HP, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, clearly it didn't matter in the end. And so how is the feeling in the team? What's the communication been like? Because obviously you had a rough start, but you've completely turned it around. The way that you guys are playing together honestly looked top tier. We were speaking about it beforehand, how the game that we watched with you guys, and then we just watched 42, Fourth Wall dismantle 42 in an incredible game. The way that you guys played seemed a lot like that. So is the feeling in the team good? Did you have faith that you could turn it around at the beginning?
Yeah, no, it's going great in the team. To be fair, I think it helps when you're winning, right after the after the start. But yeah, no, it's just played. The more we play with each other, just the better it seems to get. You know, we all get on the same page. And yeah, can't fault Gallop. The man's a hero. That's he'll get his Mundo game again, I'm sure. That's keep that one burning.
Is that the promise you've made to him?
That's
It's like,
yeah.
Okay, if we do well, if we make playoffs, you're allowed to have a Mundo game.
Yeah, when it's locked in, maybe then he gets the.
We look forward to that for sure. Then. Honestly, I was trying to think of a final question. That'll do. Honestly, that was a nice, concise. Do you want to shout out anybody's Synapse? Do you want to harken back to the UK crew?
Yeah, wow, just appreciate the love whenever I see it in chat, and yeah, just best of luck to everyone, and that's all.
How do you do that? I was trying to do that thing. There you go. Much love.
Yeah, cheers.
Come back home. I mean, I say back home. I assume you haven't flown off to some far-flung
Very
land.
much still at home, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Synapse still very much in country.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Always a pleasure to have you on Synapse.
Yeah, lovely. Cheers. Take care, guys.
We will see you again very soon. Well,
we're done.
2 fantastic games.
Look at that. That was fun. I really enjoyed both of those games. I know that we had them slated. Personally, a little peek behind the curtains. When we were just looking at it, we were like, oh, so we've got some top of the table, we've got some bottom of the table. Nice little mix. I don't know how long Unique is staying bottom of the table. I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
That was nice from them. Are they fourth wall good? Maybe not. But
I mean, this is why double round robin is so fun, because Unique lost to Fourth Wall during their weaker start, and we now get to see them right near the end of the split. So we have a whole split more of development for this Unique roster to go through before they face up against Fourth Wall again. That's going to be one heck of an interesting showdown.
Yeah, absolutely is. And obviously, we haven't even hit the start of the second round robin. There are still times for teams like K5 to turn things around. There's still times for these top tier teams to have a patch change, and all of a sudden, they aren't able to compete quite in the same way.
Our comps don't work anymore.
Yeah, oh no, we figured out how to play Brand Jungle. He's not a thing anymore. It's happened to many a good team before. So look at the standings, appreciate the teams at the top, commiserations to the ones at the bottom, but don't expect them to stay as they are right now. Still, brilliant games that we got to see today, and very excited for the next set of games.
Absolutely. We'll be coming back to you. I believe the next main broadcast is going to be on Friday. Let me double check the matches we should have for you then. I tell a lie. Production, can I double check on that?
Back on Friday.
We are back on Friday. Fantastic. And so, obviously, check back in with us then. We've got Division 1 tomorrow and Thursday as well, so stay tuned with that as well. I've been Bracket Brit, here with Black Bloxer. We've got Casual Cutie in the background as well, being the GOAT as always. Thank you, Zoe's in chat. And we'll see you for another NLC broadcast.